We'll call the meeting order. We'll have the invocation by Commissioner safely.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us, and we thank you for this wonderful talent you've given us, and we pray that you'll be with us as we meet tonight and help us all as a community work together to make decisions that will better and further our community and make things good for everyone. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right, the first item is let's might need to have a roll call.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Here.
Commissioner Thorne?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Max?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan?
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Here.
Commissioner Skeen?
Here.
Commissioner Safley?
Here.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Safley?
Aye.
Commissioner Max?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
All right, the first order of business is PL 1782, Getwell in Holly Springs, C4. Request to rezone 2 acres. The subject property is located on the south side of Holly Springs Road, west of Getwell Road in Section 21, Township 3, Range 7, West. Houston Engineering, representing the owner. Mr. Cardoso, would you please present the planning staff comments and report?
Yes, sir. And as a matter of housekeeping, the fire department usually does come in here on nights it's kind of full. So if anybody parked behind the doors or near the doors, they might ask you to move. So just a heads up in case they come in, that's probably what it's about. The first project tonight is PL 1782. The request is a zoning map amendment and preliminary development plan approval for Holly Springs and Getwell Road. Shane King with Houston Engineering is here tonight representing the application, and this was tabled at last month's meeting to give the chance the applicant to meet with an affected homeowner and to come back with a revised proposal, which they've done so tonight. As mentioned last time, the future land use map for the adopted general development plan identifies this subject property as master plan residential, and the short descriptions in your staff report. Primarily, the text is very similar to what was previously submitted, the same building elevations. The revisions came to the uses presented, which have been significantly reduced, and the landscape plan has been slightly revised to, one, present different species on the buffer yards, and then 2, add shrubbery on some of the parking islands. And so, I know the uses were discussed at the last meeting, but that's something that they have proposed to change. With this being zone C4, this zoning text would be tied to this piece of property, so the building elevations, the uses would be dictated by this document that they've presented tonight. But it still would be required to go through a certificate of development. So anything you see here is conceptual and be required to meet all the city's design standards for plant sizes, buffer yard widths, and types of plantings and everything like that. Everything presented in the applicant's proposal does seem to meet the city's design standards, but there is another layer of review after that. The city does have water and sewer available to this site via the Gilbert subdivision to the east. And after this, the next step of the process would be a final plat application if approved tonight. And so the next time it'd be in front of you, if approved tonight, would be for a final plat application. The applicant, Shane King's here tonight, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cardoso? Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Hello, I'm Shane King, representing Houston Engineering and our client Rand Management, and we're at 1207 Office Park in Oxford, Mississippi.
Any comments?
We've been working back and forth with Mr. Cardosi and Mr. Darby, and we've addressed any comments and questions. And like he said, we're going to move forward if we approve, and we'll go through the next stage of site plan review and make any necessary tweaks then. So we are open and willing to work with everyone, and we just appreciate y'all seeing us.
What was taken out?
Right now, it's just, it's not a vacant lot, there's still an old
What
barn.
was taken out of the permitted uses?
Oh, yeah, we altered, there were permitted uses like vape shop and, cannabis-related items, we took all those out. And like he's mentioned in the landscaping, we took out the crepe myrtles and we replaced them, I think it was like a American hornbeam, I think it was. But we just changed species, and the parking bays that faced roads, like Holly Springs and Getwell, we added some shrubs along to kind of buffer those off.
So the uses are on the 5th or 6th page of their staff report, but the 18 that are presented in there is what they've limited themselves to.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Anyone in support or against this application, please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety.
Good evening, Planning Commission, Jared Darby, 2070 St. Ives Lane. I want to thank the Planning Commission for tabling this application, for an opportunity to work with the applicant. I also want to thank staff and the applicant for being so open to change for this application. The lighting, landscaping, the use list, and some other minor things were altered just to make a sharper application. I'm in full support of this application. Thank you.
Anyone else in support or against this item?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Roark, and I live on Holly Springs Road, less than a quarter of a mile from where this development will be built if this rezoning is approved. And I am strongly opposed to this land being rezoned commercially for a variety of different reasons. My first concern is related to health and safety. I have 2 young daughters, and we live within walking distance of this intersection. And I'm concerned that putting in a service station and gas station, or a service station and convenience store here will increase crime in our area. You know, I've always heard that gas stations can be dangerous and a place for criminal activity. And because of this, I personally don't feel comfortable going to a gas station at night, and I definitely don't want to live beside one. You know, you also hear about carjackings happening at gas stations. Personally speaking, I have a coworker that had her car, or I work with a girl that had her car stolen at a gas station just last year. It was around 8 o'clock at night, and she stopped at a gas station. She filled her car up, and then she went in to get a drink, and when she came back out, her car was gone. When she was filling out her police report, the officers told her that this was happening all over the city, in Memphis and surrounding areas. You know, there's also a risk of a leak or an explosion happening here. I'm sure you're thinking that's not likely, but just last month at the Hop In gas station at Poplar and Highland, there was an explosion, and the entire store was lost to the fire. In addition, gas stations generate emissions that are dangerous for residents that live close by, potentially increasing their cancer rates, and these emissions are especially dangerous for small children. There have been various studies completed by the National Institute of Health and the Environmental Protection Agency that have found evidence of an increased risk of childhood cancer among residents that live close to gas stations. You know, even with all of the modern health and safety guidelines that service stations now must follow, there seems to be plenty of evidence they still pose a significant health risk to residents that live close to them. You know, additionally, in the plan that was submitted by the applicant, it mentioned that there would be 2 retail spaces here, and some of the uses that were drawn out included a self-service laundromat, financial services, and then it listed all kinds of different ways that cannabis could be used here, which I just heard that some of that was scratched out. But I'm a little concerned about what type of patrons may be frequenting these businesses at all hours of the night, and I'm also concerned that it may lower our property values. It's going to increase traffic, and traffic's already a problem. You know, Holly Springs and Getwell are both very busy roads, and there's currently only a 4-way stop here. It's also going to increase noise, light, and air pollution, disrupting our peaceful community. It was mentioned in the January meeting that if this corner of the intersection is rezoned for commercial use, that it would open up the door for the other three corners of this intersection to be rezoned commercially as well, setting the tone for the area and opening up the door for all other kinds of businesses to be put here, and also other potential gas stations to be put on this corner. You know, we purchased our home to live in a quiet rural community among other single-family homes, not to live next to a service station or other commercial district. It was also mentioned in the last meeting that this is not in conformance with the future land use development plan, is master plan residential, and that this could also be viewed as spot zoning, since there's not another commercial business outside of the small landscape store within a half-mile radius of here. You know, and finally, I don't think that this is necessary, since we already have sufficient facilities providing these services in Hernando. I looked, and there are currently 12 gas stations within a 5-mile radius of here. Many of them are open 24 hours a day and also have convenience stores. There's a Shell station that's 2 miles up the road that's open 24 hours a day. There's a service station at Walmart that's 2.4 miles up the road. There's a service station on Commerce Street, 2.7 miles away. There's an Exxon and Smart's Grocery on Holly Springs, 4.2 miles away, and it's open 24 hours a day, and that's just to name a few. There's also already a service station plan for the Short Fork community that's half a mile up the road on Getwell. I'm not the only person that's opposed to this. I created an online petition that I shared in a couple of online groups, and I have 61 signatures. I emailed that over to the planning director prior to this meeting, but I also brought a copy for you all tonight, if it would be okay for me to share that. So in conclusion, I just ask that you please consider the impacts that approving this rezoning will have on residents that live nearby and on future generations, and not just the short-term economic benefit that it could bring, since there are already plenty of service stations and stores within minutes of here. Thank you for your time.
Anybody have any questions for?
You said you're on Holly Springs Road?
Yes.
What's your address?
3140 Holly Springs Road. Yeah, we're like 2 houses over.
Any other questions for? Thank you. Anyone else in support or against this item? All right, is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
Make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen of a rezoning request by Shane King with Houston Engineering representing the owner of the property for rezoning and preliminary hearing, or preliminary development, plan for 2 acres of A to C4 planned commercial. The subject property is located on the south side of Holly Springs Road, west of Getwell Road, in Section 21, Township 3, Range 7, based on 1 through 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Safley,
Aye.
Commissioner Max,
Nay.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
The motion to approve this item passes. Next item is PL 1785, Crestview Rezoning. Request for rezoning of 49 acres from A to R15. The subject property is located on the west side of Keenlan Lane, south of Milam Lane, in Section 8, Township 3, Range 7. Cory Brady, representing the owner. Mr. Cardoza, please present the planning staff report and comment.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1785, and the request is to rezone 49 acres from agricultural to R15 residential. The subject property is on the parcel you mentioned, west side of Keenlan, south of Milam Lane. Cory Brady's here tonight with his team representing the owner and the property tonight. And the request, as I mentioned, is 49 acres from A to R15. There is a description of the R15 district in your staff report for low-density residential development where appropriate facilities are provided for. The future land use map and the general development plan designates this property as single-family, low-density dependent. The full description and map is in your staff report. The zoning policy recommends R20, R15, and R12. And with that being said, the requested rezoning would be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The surrounding zoning is depicted on an attached exhibit. To the east is R30 overlay, and the other surrounding zonings of agricultural and residential are noted. As all zoning applications go, I'll read the 3 approval or denial criteria for the record. How this proposed amendment conforms to the general development plan, why the existing zoning district classification of the property in question is inappropriate or improper, and what major economic, physical, or social changes have occurred in the vicinity of the property in question that were not anticipated by the general development plan and have altered the basic character of the area and makes this amendment appropriate. And so the applicants provided responses to each of those. And as you noticed, the staff report's quite thick. And so they have provided a preliminary lot layout, topography, draft covenants. And so with this being the rezoning stage, they offered a lot of that as a courtesy of what they're planning. But for the approval or denial criteria, I would have you zero in on those 3 criteria for approval or denial, as that's our legal basis. I'll let the applicant get into their draft conditions of the zoning that they're offering, but they're attached in their draft covenants to help match what's in Forest Meadows. And again, I'll let them speak to that here in just a second, as it was substantially discussed at the last meeting. This was heard at a previous planning commission meeting and recommended for denial that was subsequently withdrawn before it was heard by the Board of Aldermen. And to note, we appreciate Mr. Bellflower pointing it out, but the notification letters we use as a courtesy to get folks here reference the old acreage of 20 acres. We did resend notices that were delivered late last week, but just to note, this application is for 49 acres, and it does include additional acreage to provide additional access. For that additional access, the applicant's proposing a connection to Milam as their secondary required access for the fire department. And also for construction traffic, they're proposing an ingress-egress easement for all construction and traffic to come off of McInville Road, which is depicted on their attached exhibit. There is a proposed preliminary plat in there just for discussion purposes, but that would be the next step that would come back for approval or denial for full construction engineering would be that preliminary plat to come back in front of you. Since this is not an overlay or a PUD, this is strictly for the zoning, that additional step is required for a preliminary plat. Approved or denied tonight, this would go to the February 20th Board of Aldermen meeting for a full decision. This recommendation, if approved, would go there, or if it's denied, it would require a supermajority at that meeting. I did include proposed motions to approve, deny, and table in your staff report to help guide our decision-making process. Mr. Cory Brady and Billy Myers are here tonight representing the application, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any question for Mr. Cardozo?
So this was, I just want to clarify, you said this was heard before by us last year, but that was for an R20 request, and this is for an R15 request.
That's correct. And the previous application was for only 20 acres. This is for an expanded area.
And Austin, you and I emailed back and forth, and thank you, because I was trying to understand a little bit about the zoning in the area. And Mr. Brady and I actually emailed back and forth too about it. And he may be able to clarify in a minute, but as I understand the R30 overlay, that's why I was trying to understand the R30 overlay at Forest Meadows. That is intended to have a density, gross density of approximately 2 units per acre.
That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Brady, though, it pointed out to me that it's less than that in Forest Meadows. Is that right, or is?
He presented, I think you're going to talk about that tonight.
Okay,
Overall
I
density.
may be getting ahead of.
Now, the allowable density, as long as you're going below that, is okay. You can't make it more dense, but you can go less. So
Oh, of course,
theoretically,
of
in a,
course.
like an R15, you could do R20s just fine. You just couldn't go any more dense in R15. So same thought-making process was into an overlay. That's the lowest you can go, 16,000 square foot, the maximum density of 2, and then the common open space is required at 10% to help offset that.
Okay.
All right, would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Billy Myers. I'm with Myers Law Group, PLLC. Though I've been practicing law in DeSoto County, Hernando in particular, for 45 years. I'm currently in Oxford at 265 North Lamar. I'm here tonight on behalf of the developer. This is 49 acres, as Austin pointed out, the original application being for 20. They've acquired additional property so that the development is now 49 acres, seeking rezoning from A to R15. On behalf of the developer, Chris John Developers LLC, which is made up of John Reeves and Chris Lamb, John Reeves being in office with the meeting here tonight. The engineers for the project are IPD LLC, Ben Smith and Chance Walker, who are also here to answer any questions you may have about the engineering. And the developer, the planner, Cory Brady, is here with Integrated Land Solutions PLLC to offer evidence in support of this application. Of course, in any rezoning, and that's what we're here about tonight, is to rezone this agricultural property to a residential zone of R15, requires that we provide evidence, clear and convincing evidence under state law, that the character of the neighborhood has changed since it was zoned agricultural, and that there's a public need for the uses prescribed. We will present evidence on that basis, as well as address the Hernando ordinance criteria that Austin pointed out to you. What I want to emphasize first and foremost is, at the prior meeting, there were a lot of concerns of the citizens of Forest Meadows and other subdivisions that surround this vacant property. I want you to understand that when we make this presentation tonight, we have heard those concerns and we've addressed those concerns. These developers heard the citizens and they've offered solutions to those concerns. And with that, I'll turn it over to Cory Brady to offer you the evidence that supports both the state law rezoning criteria and the criteria of the city of Hernando.
Anybody have any questions for? All right, thanks.
They will for Cory, I promise.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission. My name is Cory Brady, 9967 Bentwood Creek, Collierville, Tennessee. I'm here tonight as the planning representative brought in on this team recently to provide the planning and zoning entitlement expertise necessary to bring a project like this forward. As Billy said, prior to my involvement, this project was withdrawn because the prior subdivision really didn't meet the criteria for points of access, construction access, and there are a lot of concerns expressed by the neighbors. I can assure the commission and the neighbors here tonight that we spent countless hours reviewing the YouTube, going over the meeting minutes, and have addressed, as Billy stated, every item that we identified and brought towards on this. So with all that being said, for the benefit of the commission and the neighbors, if y'all would give me the time to, I'd like to go through the criteria for zoning, what the requirements are for zoning, and what the town or the city's guiding documents suggest for the property. If that's okay, I'll get started here. The City of Hernando's zoning ordinance states that an applicant for amendment of the zoning district map shall have the responsibility to demonstrate the appropriateness of change, shall include the following. Now, I promise I'm not going to read all of them, but there is going to be some reading, so bear with me, guys. So question number one is how the proposed amendment would conform to the general development plan. Most importantly, number two, why the existing zoning district classification of the property in question is inappropriate. The existing zoning district is inappropriate or improper. And number three, the major economic, physical, social changes, if any, have occurred in the vicinity of the property in question that were not anticipated by the general development plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area, which make the proposed amendment to the zoning district map appropriate. Bless you. The city of Hernando adopted its general development plan in 2007. It's a general development plan 2007 to 2027. And it classifies the subject property as a residential district category, single-family, low-density dependent. Single-family housing with urban services. One looks for 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre, recommended. The associated located policy stipulates that the category should be located on collectors or major arterial roads. The associated zoning policy stipulates that the appropriate zoning classifications for the category, again, as Austin stated, are R12, R15, and R20, and that the infrastructure policy stipulates that sanitary sewer, public water services are required. Each one of those items we adhere to complete compliance, with the exception of the density, which we are below the density that is recommended by the land use plan. We'll get into that a little bit further. Why is the existing zoning district classification of the property in question inappropriate and improper? Well, it's zoned currently A, agriculture, and according to Article V of the City of Hernando, it's Article 5, excuse me, of the Hernando zoning ordinance, the A agriculture district is intended to provide area for agriculture and rural areas within the city area. Number 2, it's encourage a vigorous agricultural industry within the city's zoning jurisdiction. 3, ensure that urban suburban development occurs contiguous to existing urbanized and urbanizing areas, and to prevent premature urban development in areas which are not adequately served by public facilities. It's our contention, our statement, that the current A agricultural zoning is inappropriate and improper because it does not permit the residential character, lot sizes, or residential densities that are recommended by the city's general development plan. Number 2, it prohibits urban suburban development in an existing urbanized area. Number 3, it prevents urban development in an area that is adequately served by public sewer and water infrastructure. And the subject property is surrounded on all sides by urbanized residential districts developed having access to public utility infrastructure. Lastly, excuse me, what major economic, physical, or social changes, if any, have occurred in the vicinity of the property in question that were not anticipated by the general development plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area, which make the proposed amendment of the zoning district map appropriate? Well, it's our contention that the general development plan, that this validates the general development plan, because the general development plan recommends R15 zoning, but there's been a significant change of character in the immediate vicinity. Obviously, the city of Hernando annexed the property in 1990. Shortly thereabouts is when public water started showing up, sewer infrastructure started showing up, public services necessary for more urbanized development. In 2006, the DeSoto County Regional Utility Authority constructed the Short Fork Interceptor, providing public sewer to the subject property. In 2007, the city of Hernando adopted a general plan, as we discussed earlier, and between 2000 and 2023, the city experienced a 151% increase in population. In the recent years, the majority of properties within a half mile of the subject property have been rezoned from agriculture district to various single-family, multifamily, residential, and commercial zoning districts. Excuse me. That facilitated more urbanization of the area. The south adjacent Loma Vista PUD was approved in 1993 to allow RM6, which is actually a multifamily, high-density duplex residential development contiguous to this property. And the east adjacent Forest Meadows was approved in 2005 to allow R30 overlay single-family residential development. So that's the majority of my reading. Again, I apologize for that. But, so what is all this about the general development plan? As we've talked about before, and you guys are well astute, know that the general development plan guides everything, development, future growth of this town, policies, budgets, every bit of it. This plan is the plan here before you. It's not the whole document, excuse me, but what it is it's composed of several chapters, being a future land use plan, goals and objectives, and other chapters and statements that guide the policy for you guys and the aldermen. But a couple things I want to point out is Mississippi Code defines the comprehensive plan as a statement of public policy for the physical development of the entire municipality or county adopted by resolution of the governing body. According to state law, zoning and other land use regulated must be based upon the comprehensive plan. That means that zoning and subdivision regulations, at a minimum, must conform to the local comprehensive plan. The governing body uses the comprehensive plan to take action on 2 types of physical development matters, 1 or more internal matters that deal with budgeting and capital improvements, but 2 other measures that routinely require legislative or governing authority approval of IE or EG rezoning cases and/or public work projections. This is a clip of the comprehensive, or general development plan, forgive me, and the site that we're looking at is right here. And this is the legend that relates, and what it's showing is it is classified as residential, dependent, single-family, low-density residential. What that means is you go to further down in the chart, and there's a classification of exactly what that is. And that's a clip from the general development plan. Below it, you'll see text of the different key items, and the text at the bottom is what each of those are. So the purpose is stated to be the continued care of dependent single-family residential land uses in critical keeping an environment stable, tranquil, and high-quality residential settings. The location policy, single-family low-density residential development should be located on collector or major arterial streets. The land use density policy, this will get to some of what you were talking to, Mr. Jordan. Dependent single-family low-density residential development occurs at densities greater than 1 and less than 3 dwelling units per acre. The principal land uses intended for this category include single-family detached dwellings only. Buffer policy, densities of new adjoining residential development should be compatible with the existing residential areas, and a buffer may be provided when there is significant difference in densities. Zoning policy, here again, the appropriate zoning classification for this category are R12, R15, and R20. Again, we're seeking R15 today. This is a copy of the city zoning, existing zoning map. Again, the laser doesn't work on the screen, but this is our property here. It's A, agriculture residential. These are surrounding developments that have developed here in recent years. You'll see we have R30 overlay to the east, a mixture of planned unit developments and larger lot estate developments to the north. AR is agricultural residential to the south, commercial development to the southwest, residential multifamily to the southwest. We have commercial immediately across the street. Then we get into a lot of, you'll see the yellow, the mustard colors, R12 overlays. And those contain a mixture of various different lot sizes throughout the community. So this is what the City of Hernando's zoning ordinance, the provisions for R15 zoning look like. It's hard to read, but again, on the right side, I've basically listed everything. Minimum lot sizes, lot widths, maximum building heights, 35 feet, et cetera, maximum density, 3 units to the acre, building setbacks, et cetera. As a comparison of what we're looking at, again, Austin mentioned that we provided a preliminary plan for the Crestview Point subdivision. That plan's not being reviewed today, but again, as a courtesy, we wanted to see what it was as a reference. That is the plan that is intended to be brought forward following this meeting. And what that plan represents is 49 acres with a minimum lot size, and I want to underscore the fact that minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. That'll come up in the conversations with Forest Meadows and the other Notting Hill and several other projects as well. Number of lots currently proposed is 82, and that calculus comes out to 1.67 dwelling units per acre, so under 2 units per acre. Comparing those to Forest Meadows Phase 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, I'm not comparing Forest Meadows Phase 1, not trying to avoid it. Those are larger lots that were developed in the county prior to sewer. They're 2 acre plus size lots. I think there were like 20 of them. But Forest Meadows subdivision proper, each phase was composed of anywhere from 17.5 acres to about almost 40 acres. And the minimum lot size in that development is 20,000 square feet. Again, it's R30 overlay. Minimum lot size permitted was 16,000 square feet. Their minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet. The number of lots calculate out to residential densities for Phase 2 of 1.76 dwelling units per acre. Phase 3, 1.67 dwelling units per acre. Phase 4, 1.31, and on and on. Then we get into Notting Hill, Section A and B combined. I won't continue, but their minimum lot size, I want to note, is 8,000 square feet. Immediately north and east of the property. Their density is lower because they have a mixture of lots. They have small lots and large lots. That's 1.11 density units per acre. Lakes of Cedar Grove, a town favorite, obviously. It's 107 lots with a minimum lot size of 7,800 square feet and an overall density of 1.65. Saddlebrook, north and west of us, right there just north of Lakes at Cedar Grove, 20 lots at 2.8 units to the acre, and then Lona Vista is kind of the outlier here admittedly, and that's 4.98 density units per acre. So the average density among all these subdivisions, including the Crestview that's proposed, is 2.01 units to the acre, which is right in line with that policy. It makes sense where the general development plan comes in. The average lot size among all those developments is 14,244 square feet. So when you look at all of those items collectively, that plus the recommendation of the land use plan recommending R12, R15, and R20 lots is how we landed on R15 lots. So let me be clear what R15 lots mean to us. R15 lots mean to us essentially the exact same lot and width that you see in Forest Meadows. 100-foot wide lot, the difference is the depth in the lots. Forest Meadows is a rural cross-section, open ditches. We have curb and gutter. We'll have sidewalks. We'll have other amenities. So that makes a little difference on what the subdivision is. So when you're driving down the street looking at these lots, in the vehicle, a 100-foot lot looks the same as a 100-foot lot, whether you're in Forest Meadows width-wise or in Crestview subdivision. The difference is ours is going to be an urban cross-section. So I just want to underscore that fact. Just because it's R15, that was the minimum lot size, and it's essentially the same. Austin can clarify, if you will. It's essentially the same zoning district as R30 overlay, essentially. There's the minimum lot size, going by memory, R30 overlay is 75 feet with a 16,000 square foot lot size. R15, City of Hernando, is 65 with a 15,000 square foot lot. You may or may not want to correct me on that, but that's what I'm confident it to be. So I said a whole lot of that really quick because I wanted to get through it for the benefits of not only the commission but also the neighbors out here. Is why we're here is the general development plan is a recommending document for policy in this town, and it recommends R15 zoning for this property, and that is what we're seeking today. So with all that being said, I probably missed something trying to get through it. I hate slide projections as much as you guys hate watching them, but I'd love to answer any questions you have. I welcome the dialogue. I'll do my best to answer each question that you bring forward.
I have a quick question,
Yes,
real
sir.
quick. Where you're showing your construction egress,
Yes, sir.
so once the construction is done, will that continue to be an inlet there, or?
It'll continue to be a drive to the Talbot property. So what we're looking at doing, so that was one of the biggest items we heard from the neighbors, and I don't want to get off too much of a tangent, was the construction access, and construction access was having to come through Forest Meadows, and it's not ideal.
Right.
So this amendment, picking up the adjacent properties, allowed the second point of connection, but it also allowed the approval of private agreement for the construction easement to carry all that heavy equipment and to carry that through the subdivision. To take it one step farther, even painters, we're going to keep them inside the development, but while we're doing the heavy lifting construction on development, we're talking with the engineers and they can confirm we're going to stockpile the topo at Keenlan Drive and we're going to stockpile it at Singletree. So there's not going to be any, Mr. Contractor, I didn't know better. He can't get in there. I mean, and that's not something you guys require. That's another, we understand. I've been doing development for over 20 years. We get it, and we want to do whatever we can to stay safe for the neighbors and avoid that controversy. So again, there'll be a berm or stockpile of dirt at each of those points of connection. That'll be opened up when the streets open up. When the curbs poured and the soil cement, that's when those berms, and we can still have a physical blockade at that time.
Gotcha. No, I think it's a great plan. I just wasn't sure if that would remain open or if that would be closed off after the.
Yeah, well, it'll be closed off after to the development, but there could be additional property over there that we don't control. It could be, but it was hard work. Everybody worked real hard to make that happen. John, the developer, should be commended for it, working with that owner. That's a big deal, getting that construction access. I really do. That's something I'm proud that we were able to do. And I thank you for bringing it up, because that's something I shouldn't have glazed over so much that I did. Thank you.
Can you go back to your density map? Your density, I guess, graph that you have?
Yeah. Happy to. And these numbers were pulled from the plats, using the recorded plats of each of these developments, of course, excluding ours. hours.
I mean, and my question would be, I guess, the homes on Milam Lane just to the north?
Yeah, again, those are outliers, and those, and concede, those are larger lots. They
Okay.
are larger lots, but they were developed prior to sewer being there, which is why they're so large.
But they're not listed on there.
They're not listed, they aren't listed on there, forgive me if I didn't say it correctly. Forest Meadows, the 2-acre lots, and the Milam 2-acre lots are excluded as outliers, just as the Loma Vista is an outlier too. being
Well,
honest.
then, neither the Thousand Oak properties to the south aren't listed either.
Well, these are densities that show a spread. It's not, I mean, I could pull every subdivision in there. What I'm trying to convey here is our density, which is 1.67 units an acre, is under that 2-acre threshold. And it's identical to Forest Meadows, sections of Forest Meadows, various sections of Forest Meadows. That were also developed adjacent to larger lot subdivisions. That's why I'm showing these, because the density is the same as Forest Meadows, which was what we heard the most from in the previous hearing when I was listening to the videos, was Forest Meadows and the concerns there. So that's why those are identified. The lots to the north on Milam are large lots.
Well, I think the Forest Meadows was a big concern because that was your only point of access egress.
I agree with you,
So-
that's why that was corrected. But again, the takeaway, the zoning district basically the 2 units or greater, really 3 or less. And all I'm showing here, if you want to take everything off and just compare Forest Meadows to Notting Hill, you'll see how we're consistent with those developments immediately adjacent to us, which are the most recent subdivision developments in this area. You know, the Milam Country was developed in DeSoto County in, the 80s, I want to say, some time ago. It's different policies, different counties. But that's what, 1.67 units to the acre. We're under the 2-acre threshold. And our 20 lot, which is the exact, our Forest Meadows, 20,000 square foot lot, has the exact same density.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Cory.
How are you?
I'm gonna be the one to put a wrench in this conversation. All the discussion so far has been within the boundaries of that property, what we're gonna build inside there. But there's not been any discussion, because if I live there, I have to go out Kendall, wrap around the Trapper, then wrap around, that's a zigzag through an existing subdivision, that one entrance, and then we're going out Milam, which then takes us out that way. Has there been any consideration, the traffic study, about how many cars per household are average in the county right now? And how many, I think the last time I looked, it was a little over 2 per household on average? So that's 82 times 2, 160, 170 vehicles. That's gotta go out either one of those locations through those existing neighborhoods. Is there any thought to the lower, if I can get my directions right here,
You want me to try to put it?
southwest corner, right up against Thousand Oaks, is a little empty lot right there?
You're talking about basically right above Loma Vista.
That's why it is.
Now go down, right, back to your right, your finger, right there, oh.
Right here?
It's that last commercial. You got a cul-de-sac design right here, and then there's an empty lot right here, so you just drop the,
What would be going through, so right now, what we have is, forgive me, right now we have 2 public streets that are stubbed into the property, and those.
Hey, folks, hold up. Everybody's gonna get a chance to talk. We'd like to give him the chance for his.
Thank you. So right now, the subdivision is stubbed, or the property is stubbed by 2 public streets, Single Tree Drive and Keenlan. And the policy of the subdivision regulation of the city of Hernando is to extend those streets through the development and utilize those as access. And that's what we've done. So from a compliance standpoint, that's what we're expected to do. And the question of carrying it to the south, I personally haven't even considered it, because that's a platted lot that, number one, we don't control. It's another piece of property. And we already have 2 points of public road connection at the street. So from a subdivision regulation or policy standpoint, we're doing what we're intended to do.
I totally get that, you're within the ordinance, you're within the
Well, that's
compliance,
what we're
everything's.
expected to do.
expected to do, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right design.
Well,
That's what I'm saying, because my concern, and I'm sure why we got a crowd here, is we're putting a subdivision in the middle of a bunch of subdivisions, which is gonna, that's gonna be a difficult way to manage all that traffic.
We're governed by multiple things. So, obviously, I appreciate the comment and respect, and my response, we're governed by various things that we've already talked about, subregs, what have you, but also the transportation plans, all sorts of things. So, looking at an alternative access through another piece of property that's platted through, is property that we don't control, so I can't say I can do that. I mean, I legitimately can't. I don't know if that property is available for purchase. I legitimately don't know. None of us do, right? Well, I can see
It's
that.
worth investigating, I guess that's what I'm saying. Is there another way
Well, so-
to manage the traffic other than the current design?
Again, the thing here that continues to kind of somewhat get muddy is a subdivision plan versus a zoning plan, and I understand where the concern comes in. But the zoning is what the application is for, and it's the recommended zoning from the general development plan. I mean, we're not asking for a plan amendment or anything. We're just asking to zone the property to what is stipulated. So that's an item that can be addressed at the subdivision level. I assure you that if it's something we can look at, I have confidence that the engineers and I can look at transportation numbers and everything else. But right now, per the subdivision regulations, we're doing what we're supposed to do by connecting to public streets. But, yeah.
That's why I brought it up
we'll-
now, because if this commission approves a rezoning, that gives you the green light to build a subdivision.
Well, it still has to come through this board.
Right, so I want to make sure that if we do that, that we're managing every aspect, not just within the boundaries of that piece of property.
Right, well, the next stage is a subdivision plan that would have to come back before this body, absolutely. And your comment's absolutely noted, Mr.
Just put an earworm in you just to think about.
No, like I said, it's noted, that everybody's heard it. It's something that when we come back for you guys, the board will have a better answer to looking at it or a different answer. But right now, that we're adhering to the policy that guides us, and that's the city's policy.
That's a good plan.
So I have a question, why the change in lot size?
Well, it's, again, so R20 and R15 are by and large the same lot when you're looking at it on the road. When you get into the geometry, the engineering, everything about it, the R15 works from an engineering standpoint with urban cross-sections, sidewalks, and all. That's what it's really designed for. The alternative would be to have the rural cross-sections, R20s, no sidewalks, all of those things, just like Forest Meadows, but it would be the exact same lot width, same house. Actually, one of our voluntary conditions is we're having larger houses. Our minimums are larger than the Forest Meadows minimums, but it's the exact same lot from the road. It's a 100-foot wide lot, side load garages, no front load garages. It's 2,500 square foot minimum square foot house versus 2,000. Again, it's urban cross-section, better drainage. It improves the drainage situation, improves, I don't know, Joe Frank's not here, but our engineers can speak to the efficiency of drainage from the urban streets. And it's a recommended zoning district designation by the general development plan. And if you look around at the existing land use or zoning map, you'll see that there's more R12s, or let me step back. There's just as much R12 in the immediate vicinity in C2 as there is R30, and certainly more than that than the AR. So it was a compatible, and it's a comparable zoning district. It's the middle of the road R15 is recommended by the development plan. But it was in context, when you look in context of that map right there, you'll see the densities, the zoning, everything. I mean, R15 is right the midpoint of the two, so it's transitional at some point.
But an R20 would result in less density, which would result in less traffic.
Well, not necessarily, because if you look at, again, the density, if you do the basic calculations on Forest Meadows right there, it's the same. I mean, yeah, okay, 1.67 versus 1.76, that's a tenth different, but that's not measurable. 1.67 on phase 3 is the exact same as our recommendation. 1.31 and 1.17 does go down. What that equates to is, to your point, Russ, maybe 10 lots or something, could be, but again, rural cross sections, no sidewalks, all of that. So it's a give and take. It's an urbanized area. It's a recommended zoning district. And that's what the R15 is it's a better neighborhood. It's easier to maintain. I would assume your city engineer would probably, the bane of his existence are some of these rural cross-sections and open ditches. I bet in some of these subdivisions.
And speaking of ditches, there's a big ditch that runs through the back of that. I understand they have a lot of issues downstream.
So this is the.
I've actually had a few people reach out to me about that.
Okay.
They were concerned.
This is the Short Fork Creek right here. It runs through and then between Notting Hill and the Forest Meadows property, and it's also where the sewer outfall for the crew sewer line comes through. That's a, Ben Chance can probably speak to it better technically, but that ditch is, I mean, it's a floodway ditch. The entire limits of that 100-year flood are contained within its banks. And when we develop this, we'll have to show that we don't create a rise situation or our post-development flows don't exceed our pre-development flows.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, I just,
When we engineer the subdivision, there are known drainage problems that coming from the ditch through Heritage Oaks, Thousand Oaks, excuse me, on the south and coming through. There are known issues there that we're going to be able to correct through our engineering. Whether it be environmental, animals ate up banks or whatever it is, that pond's not doing its job and it's being defeated on a slight bit of rain. So we're going to fix that. Then same with the drainage. We'll have 3 different detention ponds proposed with the subdivision plan that you guys see. So that's all intended to support or fix these minor drainage issues. But there's no existing drainage issue on Short Fork. The only drainage issue that we're aware of goes into Forest Meadows. If you're aware of a drainage issue on Short Fork, that exists today.
what I'm told about is the ditch that goes between Notting Hill and Forest Meadows, south of Notting Hill.
That's Short Fork.
That's
Is
Short
there isn't a parallel ditch or anything in there that you guys, that's Short Fork we're talking about, Short Fork Creek, right? Yeah, that's that. It contains a floodway 100% within its banks.
What-
So it's a channelized, in lack of a better word, it's a ditch, and if it carries a lot of water. I don't remember how many acres of water the thing carries. But we can't, all we can do is not impound water into it, put more water into it today. And Shay will catch me real quick as an engineer if I'm speaking out of line too, but we just can't put more water into that ditch that's going in there now. We got our pre-development flows, or our post-development flows have to match our pre-development flows. So if there's 10 acres worth of water entering that Short Fork Creek, when we release water in that Short Fork Creek, it has to be 10 acres of water or less. So that's part of the engineering and the construction drawing review that the city will take. And again, engineers are here to talk, outside of my security clearance on that stuff, but that's the dumbed down version that I know how to say. Shay is.
Yeah, I mean, the city engineer will review the hydraulics and they'll be made to, detain and not have any more runoff than it was developed prior to. And when we did, I was involved in the last phase of Forest Meadows, and we had to do the city made us provide a no-rise certification on Short Fork Creek. So there will be hydraulic, studies required by engineering.
And we hope that, again, we've identified the drainage problem coming in from our south side and then going into Forest Meadows that I heard in the meeting from the last hearing that was creating some drainage issues on some of those neighbors in there. We intend to fix that. We will have to fix that. We're going to improve that detention pond immediately joining Forest Meadows there to enlarge it, store, and reduce the drainage area going into it, redirect water away from it, and improve that pond so it doesn't fail. And that'll greatly correct a problem along those lots. I guess right where Keenlan come in is where the majority of them are. It's just there's siltation over the years and other environmental issues, the way I understand.
Any other questions for that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Anyone in support or against this item, please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety.
Yes, my name is Larry Dale Bellflower. I live on 1385 Thousand Oaks, Hernando. I'm one of the outliers that y'all are discussing.
Mr. Dale.
One of many more outliers. Now, the notification process was done wrong. The first initial public letter that was sent out to us stated 20.63 acres. The second letter, which we received last Friday, stated 49.06 acres. Although this mistake contributed to the confusion, of our neighborhoods, we are prepared tonight to bring our proposals against this. The other issues I want to discuss is that traffic will be increased based on the evidence of the plan that the city gave me by at least 160-plus vehicles exiting through Milam and Forest Meadows, thereby increasing traffic on Jaybird, Thousand Oaks, and McInville. Tree removal on the Thousand Oaks side will be massive, massive tree removal. That slope that you see will have to be cut down in order for them to get the houses in there that they want. And it's going to add to the current drainage. It's going to add to it. Most likely the drainage will increase. I don't care about their retention ponds. This is the first time tonight I've heard anything about retention ponds. Proposed lot sizes are 15. They are not compatible with the outliers in Milam and the outliers, as they call us, on Thousand Oaks. Our lots on Thousand Oaks, I've got the smallest lot, 1.5 acres. Minimum square feet heated is 2,800 in my house. I've got the smallest house. My other neighbors in that neighborhood who are going to be directly affected by this because they have the bulk of the trees and the bulk of the slopes facing that property are well exceed 3,000 square feet heated. Their proposed lot sizes are 2,400 square feet heated and not compatible with the properties on Milam and in Thousand Oaks. I am so thankful that the city included us this time in this argument. At least the city doesn't treat us as outliers, but these developers do. Call us outliers because it will affect the density numbers of R15. How sad that you don't look at the total package of the neighborhoods in that area. Yeah, they go to the R12s and the other homes on McInville, but they don't consider Milam, they don't consider Thousand Oaks. There's only a small number of homes on Keenlan Drive that are 20,000 square feet. Most of the homes on Milam and Thousand Oaks are 1 to 2 acres. If you approve this zoning, the existing home values will decrease. There may be, and you will see later tonight by other presenters, there may be federally protected ponds and wetlands in that area. There may even be endangered species in that area. The environmental impact will be devastating and totally change our neighborhood when they go in there and they take out those massive amounts of trees on the Thousand Oaks side of this property. Thank you. I'll be followed by, I know, someone else.
Anybody
Yes,
have
sir.
any questions for Mr. Belfort? All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kevin Wright. I reside at,
You're going to click through the things. It's left and right, whichever way you want to go. Just click left or right. It'll advance through.
I reside at 1440 Thousand Oaks Drive. I am here in opposition of the rezoning. Would like to kind of touch base on some things we've already kind of spoken about with the stormwater concerns and issues, similarly to what the commissioner said about putting a neighborhood in the center of a bunch of neighborhoods and the traffic impact. It's going to impact our stormwater flow upstream, downstream, and I would like to make a matter of public record some requests for the citizenry around that area to ensure that when the trucks are loaded and those berms that we're referring to leave and everybody drives away, that we're not left with a mess. So I would like permission to approach. I've got some visual aids, if you would. I've provided you 3 maps. One is a United States Geological Survey imagery map that's in color, just kind of gives you some perspective, maybe a little closer with a couple of these slides, as well as 2 hydrology maps, one from a distance so you can get an idea of where we're talking about, and one which will show you blown up. Sorry, I was told there were 8. Which will also show you streams, conveyances, and potential delineated wetlands in that area. So everybody, can you see the topography map? I'm not going to give a map reading class, but see those lines? That indicates a really steep hill. Okay? So any plans of going back there and lopping the top of that thing off and spreading the dirt around will negatively impact stormwater flow and end up in the conveyances. And I'll get into that a little more later. So this is a hydrology map. You see the green shaded area in the middle? That's the area that we're all talking about. That's where the rezoning is. And I want you to pay particular attention to the blue stream to the left and this blue area, that top pond. Now, as we go in closer, you'll be able to see these streams and conveyances. Is that all right? Okay. The dotted lines you see here are either dry or wet conveyances. Those have to be determined. There's a way that you do that. This stream is probably easier to see on your maps in this pond. See that dark blue outline around it? That delineates that as a water of the U.S. There are also hydrophytes, that's plant life, that's living in that pond. That makes that a delineated wetland. There are steps that must be taken, and there are replacement requirements for elimination of a delineated wetland. If you take out an acre wetland, you got to put 2 back somewhere. So, my request for public record is that since Section 404 deals with delineated wetlands, the EPA Clean Water Act establishes a program to regulate discharge of dredged or fill materials into water. That includes wetlands. Regulated activities include field development, water resource projects, infrastructure development. The Clean Water Act covers those. You must have a Corps permit, Corps engineered federal permit, before you alter any conveyances. Before you take the first piece of equipment across that stream, it's got to be properly permitted. Before you adjust that delineated wetland, there's got to be permits there. So I'd like to formally request that any potential developer, obtain the proper EPA and U.S. Corps engineer permit. Streams, wetland, and conveyances are defined as waters of the U.S. on the geological survey maps. And the developer should pursue the appropriate U.S. Army Corps of Engineer permit to move, change any of those wetlands. That bottom pond that you see right next to Thousand Oaks Drive, that's on my property. That dark blue line around that means that I own the property around it. I own the property under it, but I don't own the water in it. That's under the auspice of the federal government. I can't change the size of that pond. I can't decrease it, I can't increase it, I can't drain it on my own without the proper permit. Same thing applies for that property up above. So we request that they obtain the proper Corps engineer permit before they move any conveyance or stream or wetland. Also, in conjunction with the Corps permits, with a Corps permit, you see the green shaded area, that's a denoted woodland area. We'd like a wildlife habitat impact survey. That's tied to the delineated wetland. As required as a permit condition, to include surveys of all mammalian, amphibian, reptilian, aviary species that may house in those woods. I'd like you to pay special attention to the various species of migratory bats that live in those woods, and have for the 18 years I've lived there. They provide a tremendous insect service for us in that area. Most people probably don't even know they're there. They breed there, they live there every year. So in conjunction with the Corps permit, you're affecting a wetland, we'd like a wildlife habitat survey. Also request any developer obtain all required MDEQ, the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality permits, in conjunction with applicable U.S. Army Corps engineers permits, to include but not be limited to a water quality permit and a construction stormwater permit. Those are pretty basic. These permits should be obtained before any work which could impact stormwater begins. They're out on the public domain. They're there for the citizenry to read, understand the conditions of those permits, and make public comment on. We encourage the developer to adhere to all the permit conditions, and as they are public documents, we will review and make any comments we have on those. And then finally, I'd like to request that the developers identify in their proposal the methods to manage post-construction runoff, not with a map that says draft, not with houses and plot plans on top of ponds, not saying one thing on one document, saying one thing on another document, okay? We would like to identify in their proposal the methods to manage post-construction runoff to the same or lower flow rates as it exists today, up to and including locations of any retention ponds, and how those retention ponds will be managed so overflow does not hit that stormwater conveyance system. As, I don't know, you guys go down Thousand Oaks or not from the high school. That bridge has overflown over that creek several times. I know there's been infrastructure improvements from the city there to help take some of that load off, but as I watched it over the weekend in about a 2.5-inch, 24 to 40 hour rain event, forgive me, I didn't look it up before I came, but we got a lot of rain. I think you'll agree with that. It was getting close to the top of that bridge again. Stormwater's not turning your faucet on and it goes down the drain. It doesn't just run the way you want. It goes back, it goes down. And if you're familiar with that area right at that bridge, there's nowhere south for that water to run. And if you look on that map, you'll see gray boxes. That's a home, 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 that's a home. You see these conveyances running here? We altered that in any way. There's approved engineering methods, and those Corps permits will ensure those best management practices are put in place. You see the houses on Keenlan? It would be a guess, but retention ponds likely may be in here or up there off the finger at the top. So what I'm asking is when they leave and the equipment gets loaded and they pull out of here, that if those ponds don't handle all the storm water flow that we need them to retain and they overflow their banks, where's that water going? So, requests are a Corps permit be pulled, wildlife habitat survey of the affected woodland area, appropriate Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality permits pulled, and in addition, we'd like to see not a draft, but a final proposal that shows the movement of the conveyances, any additions to the stream, as well as what we're going to do about the wetland, and how that stormwater upstream and downstream will be managed so people who are around that neighborhood that you're putting in the middle of that are around the neighborhood that you're putting in aren't negatively impacted. So, that's all I got. Questions?
Thanks for the question. You were talking about the elevation on there, that it was a steep drop off. Do you have any numbers as far as what the elevation change is?
I don't know the total. I do think these indicate, though, that you drop down 2 feet.
No, 10.
10 feet, yeah. You drop down 10 feet for every 2 feet. Am I looking at that right?
Per line. 10 feet per line.
10 feet per line down. What that means is it's steep. And these lines are, I don't know.
It's 60 feet from the creek up to the top of that ridge. It's 60-foot rise in elevation.
Yeah, I think I remember Mr. Ben saying it was about 56 foot last time.
Didn't include my keys.
All right, thank you
They
very
said
much.
60 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Full of trees.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, and I appreciate it because I love all that knowledge. My name's Priscilla Harbour. I live at 1485 Milam Lane, and my property is completely surrounded by the ditch, the drainage ditch that's natural and serves this whole area all the time. I would like to start with the 4 bullet points that were about. Mine focuses mainly on the change in the zoning. The 4 bullet points that the developers used in saying that we should not have it zoned A, we should have it zoned R. So the first 2 points have to do with, well, I'll just read this out because I start getting nervous. All right, number 1, they say that it does not, that the zone A does not permit residential character lot sizes or densities recommended by the general plan. And number 2 says it prohibits more development in the urbanized zone, which is what we want. I don't see why we need more residential properties over there. And even though I do understand growth and I understand the need for homes, this area is more suited to its existing wildlife habitat and natural beauty, which would be lost with the change in a zone. I understand the need of housing and growth, but development of this area will be too disruptive to the surrounding areas. The 3rd point and the 4th point both had to do with the utilities. And the 3rd point said that it prevents urban development in an area adequately served by public sewage and public sewage and water infrastructure. The 4th one said the subject property is surrounded and by all sides by the urban development. Yes, we do have urban developments all around this area that they're proposing, but I really question whether it can adequately serve the sewer. Just, the infrastructure, the burying of new sewage pipes and all that kind of thing is going to disrupt it so much that I just don't see how, and the sewage is already stressed with all this fast growth as it is. So I'm afraid that I'm not so sure that this 3rd bullet point is an argument for them. I don't think that even though we could tie into the surrounding areas, to the surrounding pipes and things, it would disrupt everything so badly. I'm really concerned about our ditch. Let me see what else we got here for you. Oh, tough act now. My main concern is with the change in the landscape. Due to the leveling and loss of the trees, serious flooding can be expected. I didn't understand some of the things that the developer said about the detention ponds, and I was so glad this man before me spoke to that because I'm not sure, I'd like to know more about that. I would like to know more about, we need more information from other people like the Corps of Engineers before, and all of these things that people are requesting before we change the zoning, in my opinion, because that's what we're here for. And that's, if y'all change the zoning, we know that it's all going to go through no matter what. So since we're talking about zoning, like I said, that's why I wanted to just focus in on those 4 main ideas. Another major concern for us is not only what's going to happen with the flooding in the ditch, But, and they've mentioned this, the children in the neighborhoods. We have many kids that play in our neighborhood. And we don't have sidewalks, we don't have curbs. And even though they're going to have that in the new subdivision, you know, are they going to bring that over into our subdivision to protect our children who are going to be exposed to all this extra travel? And the numerous side effects, so we do have many things to consider if we're talking about changing this parcel, the zoning of it. The numerous side effects of the actual development itself, with all the digging and all of that and upsetting the flow. The actual density of the homes. I didn't understand why the bigger properties weren't included in those density comparisons, because I think it would change some of those numbers. So the density of the homes that are going to be put in there are going to put more stress on our system, on our sewage system and our water system that we've talked about. And like I said, we've had some trouble with that already. And then the safety of those affected by the additional traffic in the area. So I propose that the parcel stays on A, and for the good of all the residents in our surrounding area, our Outlanders. Thank you. You don't have any questions today? You okay? Thank you.
My name is Amy Stewart. I live at 1438 Notting Hill Cove West. I have lived in Hernando all my life. I have lived at my residence since February 29th of 2008. And for nearly 10 years off and on, I have served as an officer of our HOA board. And my main concern and objection with this development, while I'm all for growth and new homes, is the erosion. As an HOA officer, we have continuously dealt with soil erosion and creek maintenance of the creek that borders Forest Meadows and Notting Hill. During the time that I have lived in Notting Hill, I have seen Banbury flood 3 different times. I have seen us as HOA spend upwards of $80,000 from our personal HOA budget for creek and soil erosion maintenance. And it isn't fun. It's an ongoing battle. I've also, as a 26-year school teacher, have to drive through 3 different subdivisions just to get to work in the morning to avoid Mackingville. And so when you add an additional approximate 200 cars to Mackingville in the morning, that isn't going to be fun. Also, we have had an ongoing sewer smell on Jaybird that we cannot seem to get fixed for the last 2 to 3 years. Hernando just can't seem to find the problem.
go to main parts of Hernando. The lot size being this small creates a lot more houses, and that's a lot more traffic. So I'm thinking if anything's approved, it ought to be a lot bigger lot. Another thing that caught my attention, the construction access road goes right between two residences, and both of those residences have small children. So that doesn't look like it'd be a real safe thing to me. So I'm opposed to it as it stands.
Could I ask that I get
Well,
to
yeah,
speak?
come.
Could I speak from my chair? Would that be okay? Got difficulty in getting up there?
Just state your name and address.
Steve DeLugich, 1185 Milam Lane. Been there since '91. The erosion in my back and front yards has been anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of depth of soil since I've been there, from the runoff off our slope heading down Milam. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of erosion there is. And I've kept my yard groomed pretty good to where it's as thick as it can possibly be. So when you're taking out this many trees and grasslands, I don't care what the developer says, there's gonna be more runoff than you could ever imagine. And I highly doubt any of these developers, or Mr. Brady was it, have been out by that ditch after a hard rain. And for him to make those comments about it's within the banks, those are totally false. I'd invite him to come over after one of our more recent rains and walk out there with me, and I'll show him different. I know Milam, I live on the upper middle part of Milam, and we get tremendous out of the bank drainage through our drainage ditches. In fact, the house across the street from me looks like a lake after a hard rain. So it cannot, and we're on the upper middle, so you can only imagine what down in Cove is getting. And it's gonna only be worse. That big hill that's in this property they're talking about, if they leave it, it's gonna be, if you take out the trees and grasslands, it's gonna be unimaginable. And anytime you sidewalk or asphalt and strip property, you're gonna have runoff. Look at the Compel Church where it was built. It totally ruined the pond across the street from drainage and mud slide across the street and into that pond property. There's a camelback hump in Mackingvale right there that creates a natural, dangerous viewpoint when you're trying to pull out of Milam. You can't see a lot of cars coming before they're on you. And if we add 160 plus new cars coming off of Milam, it's going to create a huge safety issue. I'd invite any of the planning commission to come over, and we'll take a little drive about 7:30 in the morning or at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and try to pull out of Milam on the Mackingvale, because it's pretty near impossible. And if you've got teenagers or whatever that are antsy and they're going to take a chance, you're going to get some severe accidents right there. It's already a very dangerous, even coming from the other way, there's a little crest that you can't always see cars. They're on you like this. And those people are going faster than 40 miles an hour, first of all. So it creates a super dangerous situation. And the school's only going to get more traffic as it converts to a junior high, because instead of kids driving and leaving during their day, you're going to have their parents picking them all up at the same time. So your car traffic is going to almost double from what it is now. And if anybody's ever been over there, it takes 30 minutes to get through. It's ridiculous. And then there's the wildlife issue. We have a tremendous amount of wildlife that totally be displaced if, and it's going to ruin the quality of life for the people that have been there. It's nice to see the wildlife, and that doesn't. And I know everybody from Hernando, you know, if you're sitting on y'all side, you wanna increase the tax base and everything. But sometimes, it's gotta quit being a numbers game and be a common sense game. And you go call Olive Branch and ask them, did they wish they had taken their foot off the gas sooner than they did? Just this recent freeze, nothing over there but low water pressure. So, and we have low water pressure from time to time now. So if you're adding that many more small homes in there, it's only gonna get worse. And because they're gonna construct the mail area right there off of Singletree, it's gonna naturally make people wanna come that direction. So even if they have other exits, they're gonna come through that Singletree, creating a huge traffic jam exiting Milam onto Mackinvale. So I just think I think at some point, common sense has to win out. Thank you.
My name is Ramon Tate. I live at 1130 Milam Cove, and I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one was the statistics that were presented to you. Something like, what do you say, 2.01 lots. Of course, that was using a couple of outliers. Number one was Loma Vista, which everybody knows, you know, that's almost right across from the high school. And it's extremely high density right there. And also Saddlebrook. If you take those two outliers out and just look at the lots that adjoin this proposed development, that number of lots per acre changes dramatically. Instead of being like 2, it's more like 0.69. Okay, 69 100ths of an acre per lot. Now that's the average. You look at this map over here, and by the way, I want to compliment the DeSoto County GIS. In my job, I used to work for MDOT. I use these maps quite a bit. You'll notice to the north, Milam Country, all of those lots are 1 acre plus. The ones to the south, with the exception of Loma Vista, are 1.5 acres plus. The ones to the right, that would be Forest Meadows. I checked those. I didn't find an acre less than 0.4 acres. Most of them were around 0.42, 0.44, 0.46. So they're approaching a half acre for those lots. Now that's the land surrounding this proposed development. The gradients, when you go out there, if you've been out there, like I said, from the base of that creek, that's a 60-foot gradient. It's significant. You get out there, you can't help but see it. And you talk about taking all those trees down, and obviously, it's extremely obvious, you're going to have to pretty much flatten that ridge to develop it. That's going to change the drainage dramatically around there, no question. There's a lot of things going on here that I don't like. One, which Steve talked about, and that's the traffic. No question, most of that traffic is going to be coming up Milam Lane. And it's hard, if you try to get out of there on a school morning, it's hard enough to get out as it is. You add another, basically what amounts to what, 160, close to 200 cars, it's going to make it a lot worse. Another item, you'll notice on the plot plan, the plat that was submitted, they showed 49 acres where they had a proposed set of streets. I measured them out. It was over 5,900 linear feet. I don't have the exact numbers because the copy I had was a little blurry. But I figured it was over 5,900 linear feet of streets. There were lots that I scaled out. And by the way, 40 years ago, that's what I used to do. I used to draw maps. That's what I did. So when I scaled it out, I was finding lots that were under 100 feet of frontage in that development when I scaled them out. So you're going to have lots in there that are much, much smaller, much less frontage than the lots almost all the way around, with the exception of Loma Vista. So, and the drainage issues, which have been talked about, I won't belabor that. They've been talked about, the loss of the trees. I know you can't stop development, you know, but I think the density that's being proposed is way too high for what it is, and it just doesn't adequately address the drainage issues, which are plainly obvious. That's all I have. Thank you.
Kelvin Lake, 1717 Keenlan Drive West. My wife and I, back in 2021, made a decision to move to Hernando in what I felt like was the best lot to build our house. I remember you came and did our final CO. I remember that. So we were extremely happy about where we built our house, and we happened to be the last house in Phase 5 on the top of that hill, that White House, where that tree line is, where the TVA lines run through. And I'm speaking from two angles today. First of all, as a concerned person, I'm on the HOA in Forest Meadows, and I also am a real estate broker. I own a real estate firm, and that's what I do every day. I understand, first of all, the implication is those people who live in Forest Meadows, our property values will drop drastically. The people on Thousand Oaks, y'all are not outliers, their property values will drop. And so one day we made a decision to walk. I wanted to see what the fuss was about. So we had been there at the time 2.5 years and had never walked up the hill. And so we walked up and we were amazed at the beauty of that hill. We saw white tails everywhere. We saw everything you could imagine as it relates to wildlife. Where we live right now, we get a hard storm, hard rain, and right now our backyard is the main channel to that gully, to Forest Meadows, Keenlan. It comes down that hill already, through our backyard to the street, okay? And then it floods the Allens. There you go. It floods their house. Came through yesterday, and literally the water was that close from being in their yard. It was completely full. She got pictures, I'm sorry. This was yesterday. This was just yesterday in their yard from the rain we had yesterday. It is ridiculous the amount of runoff we're already getting. This was yesterday, all right? And can you imagine what it was like when we had the snow, the melting snow and the rain? Okay, thank you. And so for us, you know, we've got people right now we're having discussions with whose whole backyard's about to come apart. They're about to lose their whole fence right now from our drainage issues already in Forest Meadows. I think doing this, and I'm a proponent of growth, I'm a proponent of development, I understand it's inevitable, it's going to happen, but to me it doesn't make sense to do that considering all of the issues we're already having. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. If I would have known that these type of issues existed before I purchased that lot and built that beautiful house on that hill, I would have placed it somewhere else than where it is right now. And I think that we all have a responsibility to not only, and I know we talked last time that, you know, we are here for a zoning meeting, so I'm not even going to bring up the danger to our children. The main bus stop is right there in front of my house. If you don't live over there, you don't understand the pain that we have. We sit out there and watch our kids walk to those bus stops, pitch black dark. And if you add another 200 cars coming through, either way, we're gonna have a problem. So all I'm asking is, if you've not had a chance to walk that neighborhood when that runoff is coming, do us a favor. Before you make a decision, come to Keenlan Drive West and see what happens when we get a rain. It is horrible. I mean, even in front of my yard, either way, I'm getting it from the hill coming down, and I'm getting it from Keenlan Drive West. And we need to do something about that before we open this up and rezone this, and it's gonna create a major issue for our neighborhood. So that's all I ask. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Pino.
I'd like to invite all of y'all to stop by my house and have a cup of coffee before you visit Mr. DeLuca. Because early morning, before it gets daylight, sitting on my back patio, looking out over this development or future proposed development, I get to see all the wildlife, barred owls, the bats, among other, the deer. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not against development. I realize this is somebody's land. They have every right to develop it, but it needs to be done responsibly. I've lived on Milam Lane since 1993 when the house was built. I've raised 2 children on Milam Lane. I'm now raising 2 grandchildren on Milam Lane. My house backs up to the creek, and it is a creek. I've heard several of y'all call it a ditch. It's not a ditch. It is a creek. It's a natural waterway. Water flows in it in the driest month of the year. There's fish in it. There's amphibious animals in it. It's a natural waterway. We deal with some erosion from Short Ford Creek ourselves. We've lost land to it. Not much we can do because it is a natural waterway. I don't want any more water running through it than what it is now because I would like to keep my acre lot, all of it. I thought it was really telling that when it was presented that we were considered outliers. We're not outliers, we're smack dab right up against it. And our lots are bigger than what's proposed. And what I saw was that it's just not in keeping with the existing area. It's just not. I don't speak as eloquently as some of the other people that spoke to you today, but I'm speaking with my passion. That's my home. When I moved in there 30-something years ago, I said, I'm not going to move again. This is where I want my great-grandkids to come visit me. To think that all of that will be destroyed is pretty upsetting. You've got the traffic, you've got all of that, the lots, what they're proposing is not good. Thousand Oaks, Milam Lane, Short Fork, that's the existing area. They're not outliers. Those lots and our property values mean a lot to all of us. And like I said, y'all come visit me before it gets daylight. We'll sit out on the back patio with coffee and you can watch the bats, the owls, the deer, the cranes, all the animals and wildlife that need to be protected in this area. The water issue is a big deal. It needs to be addressed. And the traffic. I mean, I like what the other lady said. Yeah, you're gonna have sidewalks. Woohoo. We don't have them. We've never needed them. You'll have them in your area, but you're gonna funnel everybody out right by us. Like I said, I've raised 2 kids on that street, sent them to college, and they've moved off. I'm raising 2 grandkids now. And I want them to have the same safe environment for the next 18, 20 years that we have now. And there again, Short Fork Creek, it's a creek, it's not a ditch.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Pino. I live at 1335 Milam Lane with Miss Teresa. I've lived there since 1991, and I have walked all of that property before any of the west or the east side was ever there. That is zoned as farmland, but it was reclaimed from wetlands to become farmlands. The section that we're now talking about has not been farmed in 20, 25 years, so it has reverted back to wetlands. So Mr. So-and-so that brought up the point of the studies of environmental impact, wildlife impact, are all very genuine. I walked the topographical maps that we saw here earlier, the lower levels of that lot, I walked that today, and I'm this far in water. So what is a retention pond gonna do but hold water? It's not gonna do what it's supposed to do to hold back the water from a flood event in our creek. A little bit about my history of being on Milam Lane. I moved there in '91. I had about 25 or 30 feet more land on the edge of this creek. It is no longer there because I'm on the high side and the bank cuts. My property stakes are on the other side of the creek. So the creek is mine. The problem with the sewer. Someone mentioned problems they have downstream. We've had those problems, and the problems I understand are resulted from downstream or the end of Milam Lane having a sewer pump that has to move the sewer up the hill. So where are all these people going to move their sewer to? So the consideration for the sewer is going to have to be brought into the equation. Okay? The last thing I guess I have to say is the construction entrance. I know that's a temporary thing, but how long will this development go on? And where I understand that the access is going to gain access to McInville, it's right in the lower part of that section we were talking about. That's a blind section. So we're talking about bringing construction vehicles in and out during school time that's completely backed up on McInville. So the best thing you can do, if in your own conscience, is to come out there and walk that area and see what's there. Make yourself familiar with that area and see what we're having to deal with, and then try to imagine what this development is going to do to us. It's going to be very, very sad. It's going to reduce my property values. You know, that's the other side of this equation too. It's not only going to ruin our habitat and our environment, but it's also going to lower our property taxes on it's going to hit our pockets big time. So I thank you for your time and appreciate your consideration for where we're coming from. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Karen Goldman. I'm not good with public speaking. I live at 1430 Milam Lane, which is that little pizza pie at the very end of the cove, or the area there. I've only lived here since 2019. My husband has lived there since 1989. He was the second house on that street. I can tell you from my experience being there, my neighbors behind me cut trees down. My yard floods, my backyard floods now, my side yard floods, my whole front yard floods. Everything floods at my house now with those trees gone. My deer have gone. I see them every now and then, but they're more up the street now. When they did the church on McInville, all of our deer have come. That's where our deer are. Our possums and our raccoons and all of our animals. I can show you through my phone because I love to take pictures of the deer. I have video of the owls, you know, back and forth. We do have a lot of wildlife there. Our children in the neighborhood, we don't have any. I'm the meanie of my street. I deliver presents to all the kids on my street. Our kids ride bicycles in the street. They are on scooters in the street. They run up and down the street. I've got a video last week of the little kids in my neighborhood playing in my river in my yard because that live up past the Pinos, which is further up the street. The children are always in the yard. They always come down and play. They do everything. We don't have sidewalks. We don't need sidewalks. I had them put a sign up that we're a dead end. You can't go through, or to keep the traffic out so the children are safer. I was in law enforcement for 33 years. That's what I wanted. When I moved up here from Batesville, I've told my neighbors, I've told my husband, I'm a country girl. I've always been in the country. It's the first time I've really lived in a city, being out of the military. I'm as country as I can get being in town. And I love it there. It's quiet, you don't hear. I hear the high school band playing if I sit on my front porch. I don't want to hear traffic. I've directed traffic for over 20 years. Those poor officers, I think of those poor officers out there where the high school is, what they're going to have to deal with. That is just a pain in the butt, and you're going to add all these other, y'all know. This would add so much more. If I leave Milam Lane, I'm retired. I try not to leave. I try not to get out there when they got to be out there. But if I go, I usually hit Milam and go right, because that's the best way for me to get out, and I'll just find some other way to go around. These people, they gotta go to work, they gotta go to school, and what they said earlier, because I never even thought about it, moving that thing to a junior high, yeah, you're not having people leaving at intermittent times. They're all gonna be leaving at one time. And that's not including, that's your school traffic, that's not including your work traffic. That's gonna be a problem. And it's just a problem that we don't want, we don't need. I would love to see that protected land for all of our animals. Because if you come down, I got a text from my husband just a little while ago that says, when you come home, be careful, because in front of Rick's house, there were 6 deer in the road. That is nice. That's nice. And we're always developing, but we're losing land. And when they said that you're going to cut down them trees, I know personally what happens when you cut down those trees. I flood. I can't put my dogs in my backyard. My dogs in my yard, because it's too flooded for them, ever since those trees were cut down. We didn't have that problem before that. So it happens, and we're going to end up with the same problem later on. And I appreciate you guys listening to me. Thank you.
All right, we'll do a couple more, and then we'll.
I'm going to speak very briefly, but go ahead.
I just got one question. You know, I live on 1,000 Oaks.
Can you state your name?
Kevin McGuffey. I live on 1390 Thousand Oaks, and I have the same thoughts and concerns as all of my neighbors. I mean, from the wildlife to the drainage. My question is, I already live on the side of a hill. I mean, my house is on the side of a hill. If they come in and start shaving down all that land back there, and from my property line starts eroding, because right now it's all a rolling hill. But if they come in there to put all these houses in there, they're gonna have to flatten it out. I mean, I think we've already established that. Where does that leave me when my land starts eroding because of a development that was approved by permits and the city and everything? Does the city come out and do erosion control on my property, or is that something I'm gonna have to take care of? You know, when it rains, it white caps going down my yard. I mean, I have erosion problems already. I don't see any way that if we put a neighborhood on my property line, that's gonna cause any less erosion. I got a feeling that it's gonna start flowing, you know, towards the development. That's gonna take my property over time. So I don't know if y'all have the answer to that question, but whose responsibility is that when my land starts, when I start losing acreage to a new development? That land's been there, I mean, you can still see the rows from when it used to be farmed. And that, I mean, I don't know how, you know, obviously, it's been logged before, so it's not like it's never been touched, but, I mean, when you come in and totally strip out land and start putting asphalt, concrete, I mean, we beat the drainage horse to death, okay? I'm not gonna do that, but do y'all know whose responsibility that would be? Anybody? Is that concerns?
I would have to get with Stephen about that.
Yeah.
Give an answer to you.
There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of theoreticals, and I think I don't have a good answer for you.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wanted to bring that up because there's just no way it's not gonna happen. And I'm trying to prepare for, you know, I think my lot's about 1.75 acres or something like that. And, you know, I paid for every bit of it, and I don't want to lose it because of something that's right now it's kind of flat, but when they start cutting, water flows downhill. It's going, so.
Okay, someone's gonna have to let me out. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm Nancy Rosenberry. I live at 1933 Keenlan Drive West. And I overlook the beautiful green area that everyone's talked about with the pond and the deer and the cranes and the egrets. And so something that Commissioner Thorne said last time we were here, I believe it was you, he said just because there's green land doesn't mean it has to be developed. I appreciate that. I found today online a Hernando comprehensive report or planning guide. It did not print all the way out, but it's a lovely 60-slide presentation about what we want for our city. And the first one on public input and planning principles reads, preserve open space and environmentally sensitive lands and enhance Hernando's overall environmental quality. Discourage the development of areas such as floodplains, wetlands, steep slopes, and important plant and animal habitats. Preserve tree cover where possible, as well as open space connected to a broader open space network. Enhance the environment through approaches such as increased tree plantings and green infrastructure to help mitigate stormwater runoff. That's number one on this planning principle, and I wanted to remind you of it today. Thank you.
Okay, rebuttal by the applicant.
Say briefly, I'll let Billy take some of that stuff, some of the questions. Again, a lot of what we're hearing from the neighbors, obviously, we respect greatly. I know perhaps they might not believe that, but it's 100% true. And I'd tell them I'd look that way, but it's not the appropriate way to handle the committee. But that being said, these are also subdivision and construction drawing related items by and large. That's not a zoning item. The city adopted a general development plan in 2007 that policy was created from, that funds sewer improvement processes, that studies are used to generate funds for schools, various different things. That recommendation gives us a roadmap of development. That recommendation gives a landowner value on their property. That recommendation is adopted and it's valid today. And I don't mean that insensitively, I'm just speaking directly. What we're proposing, again, is in direct compliance with the city's guidelines. This is not our guidelines, these are the city's general development plan. goals and objectives that are published. So I just want to underscore that because, again, those are the directions and the guidelines that we're given. A lot of these issues we're hearing, there's a lot of drainage. We understand that. In my presentation, I addressed a lot of it, saying we acknowledge it, we've identified it, and this is how we're going to fix it. We can't fix it until we get into subdivision. If it remains as it is, it's never going to get improved. The city's not going to buy the property. I mean, you know, it's an interesting proposition. So with that said, I just wanted to underscore that we're here today for zoning, not construction-related items, not a subdivision layout, none of that. That is all hypothetical, all conceptual. We're here today requesting R15 zoning in compliance with the city of Hernando's general development plan. I want to yield a little bit to Billy, let him follow up.
As Cory said, you know, what's before you today is an application for rezoning. This property is zoned agricultural today, and it could be developed today as an agricultural property. But your comprehensive plan, which should guide you in hearing rezoning applications, tells you that the better development plan would be under an R15. It says R12, 15, or 20. We selected R15. That works for this property. It's better for Hernando. Hernando has told you that through his comprehensive plan. So having now demonstrated that the evidence suggests that this property should be rezoned to R15 as the application suggests, we have met our burden of proof with the evidence. It's clear and convincing that there has been a change in the character of the neighborhood since this property was zoned agricultural. Clearly, it's right there on that board. That change is there, and that there was a public need for the residential development as proposed. The concerns of the neighbors are legitimate. They're going to be addressed at the proper time. Tonight, though, we're here simply for the rezoning. The evidence is clear that this property should be rezoned to R15. We ask you respectfully to make a positive recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. The property be rezoned from agricultural to R15. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to, any questions from the commissioners? Is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
I'll make a motion to deny.
A second.
Motion to deny rezoning request by Cory Brady, representing the owner of the property for 49 acres from A to R15. The subject property is identified as parcel 307308000000202 and is located on the west side of Keenlan Drive, south of Milam Lane, in Section 8, Township 3, Range 7, based on the following findings, 1, 2, and 3.
Or is there a second?
A second.
Commissioner Clark,
Nay.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Safley,
Aye.
Commissioner Max,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeens.
Nay.
The motion to approve this item passes, to deny this item passes, and the recommendation will go to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. All right, we'll get started again. We're looking at PL 1784, Broad Road Variance. The request is for a variance to the allowable size of an accessory building. The subject property is located at 1190 Broady Road, south of Pleasant Hill Road in Township 3, in Section 3, Township 2, Range 7. Jonathan Hicks, the owner. Mr. Cardozo, please present the planning staff report and comments.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1784. The request is a variance to allow an accessory building larger than 50% square footage of the home. Jonathan Hicks tonight, the owner of the property, and is here tonight representing the application. The next couple of applications are for variance, and so I'll just read this once for the record, but the approval or denial criteria for variance, that special conditions and circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land, structures, or buildings involved and not generally applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district, that the literal enforcement of the provisions of these standards would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties within the same district under the terms of this ordinance, that the special conditions and circumstances don't result in the actions of the applicant, and the granting of this variance wouldn't confer on the applicant any special privilege that's otherwise denied to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. And the applicant did provide responses to each of those. Specifically about the application in front of you tonight, the applicant's square footage of the home is 1,956 square feet. The accessory building is presented to be 30 by 40 with a 12-foot height. And with the square footage of 1,200 versus the square footage of the home, it puts them at 61% rather than the allowable 50%. And the setbacks are 48 feet from the home, 55 feet from the side property line, and 45 feet from the rear. It does exist on a rather large lot, and so it'll meet all the applicable setbacks. It's just the size is 61% versus the allowable 50. I did include a site sketch that shows those dimensions, and then there's an aerial that gives you an idea of roughly where this building will sit on the property in relation to the other pieces of property around it. And as I mentioned, Jonathan Hicks is the applicant, and I'm available if you have any questions.
What's I may have misunderstood, but the building plan is 1,200 square feet.
That's correct, yes, sir.
The home is
19.
19, okay, I wrote it down wrong, I'm sorry.
1956.
Any question, Mr. Cardozo? All right, would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Jonathan Hicks. I live at 1190 Broady Road, Hernando, Mississippi. I guess the question tonight being at the square footage of my home versus the square footage of the building. And I'd like to point out, I think it was 1,900 square foot, you said?
Yes, sir.
The home is located on a pretty large lot in the agricultural zone district. And comparable to the size of the home and the size of the homes in other areas, that the room for additional development within the home to meet the square footage is available. That would make it within the criteria of the 50%. So I believe the problem being would be the size of the building versus the size of the house. And I guess the view at that, you don't want a big, large building next to a little small home would be the problem there. And I just believe that building would better fit that property and where it's located and how everything was arranged on the property when it was developed. And that would allow for my needs within that property. I wouldn't be infringing on anybody else around me or anything like that. I don't believe there's anybody who opposes what I was asking here tonight.
Mr. Hicks, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to any of your neighbors or?
The immediate neighbors.
Yeah, does anybody have an issue with you?
No, sir. I personally went to my immediate neighbor who was on his side and
no issues?
Told him my complete plan and all, and he didn't voice anything right then or any more tonight. He is a an elderly gentleman, so I believe if he had opinion, he would let me know right then.
Is that the neighbor to the north?
Yes, to the north.
12, okay.
That is the side of the property I'd be putting that on.
It'd be, and I'm just looking at the aerial map, would it be kind of behind his?
Yes.
Okay, because it's kind of behind your, if I'm looking at your drawing correctly.
Yes.
It's offset a little to the back of your home.
Yes, sir. My home is developed to the back of that property is what I would call it, so there's not really much room behind the home. So I had to put it to the side.
Just like a shop?
Yes, sir. It's gonna be a storage facility. I'm not planning on any commercial or anything like that. Trying to bring any business or any more traffic on the road. It's strictly for storage for my personal property on that property I use to maintain that property. It's a pretty large property.
Russell, I rode by and I've got a picture if you want to see with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I seen it too.
So you already have the drive in and kind of the
Yeah.
elevation for it out there.
I need the storage area and all to clean up that area. I'm sure you got a picture and you see I got boats and what have you, and that would really clean that up. And security purposes, the world's not getting any better.
Right.
I do realize what it looks like now. I'll give you a little background. I had a vehicle stolen from me past year, and that developed into more vehicles. That's kind of what I had to replace a vehicle, and then about the same week I replaced a vehicle, I got the other one back, so now I'm kind of stuck with these.
Right.
Any other question for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time this evening.
Anyone in support or against this item, please come forward, state your name and address in its entirety.
What if we just have a question?
Yeah, this,
I'm Renee Mansell. I live at 1123 Dogwood Hollow Drive, so just adjacent street.
Can you repeat your name? I'm sorry.
Renee, R-E-N-A-I, Mansell. Is this going to be a metal, like prefabricated building, or is it going to be like a wooden building with a regular?
I'd be a metal building. There's other buildings within the area that's similar construction.
Okay.
I would build it to whatever city standards and then whichever contractor I choose to make that happen, they would have to meet all regular regulations and code requirements as far as colors and such like that.
Okay, and you said it's just like a shop?
Yeah, it's not
like a
being
storage?
Ma'am, just address
I have
us.
to ask you,
I'm
so
sorry.
you can ask him? Okay.
sorry.
So it's gonna be used for like a shop or like a storage?
That's what he was saying a minute ago, just store
Storage
stuff, storage.
it's not like a detached living space is what he's saying, so.
Okay.
Store your tractors, things like that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, extra car.
Boats, get a tractor for working at Little Puss property. I currently have a couple of chicken and stuff like that.
Austin, what are the regs on the finished material for those outbuildings? They don't have to match the.
Unless there's covenants subject to it, there are no design standards for residential property. I know probably not the answer everybody wants to hear, but that's just, there's no, unless there's covenants, we defer to the building code. As long as it meets the building code, that's where we go by.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else in support or against this item? All right, is there a motion to, any questions from the commissioners? All right, is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
I make a motion to approve the request to allow accessory building larger than 50% of the home as described in the attached exhibits. The subject property is located at 1190 Broady Road, south of Pleasant Hill Road, in Section 3, Township 2, Range 7, based upon the following findings, A through D.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Safley?
Aye.
Commissioner Max?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
The motion to approve this item passes. Next item is PL 1790, 1398 Miller's Way. Request for a fence variance to encroach 10 foot into the setback. The subject property is located on the south of Miller's Way, west of Ava Drive in Section 25, Township 2, Range 8. Robert Harper is the owner. Ms. Kadosha, please present the planning and staff report and comments.
Yes, sir, this is PL 1790. As you mentioned, it's a fence variance to encroach into the allowable 10-foot of the setback. Robert Harper is representing the application as the owner tonight, and the subject property is 1938 Miller's Way. On the aerial photography, you'll notice it's not reflected just because it is a new home, and it is a corner lot, so we've received other types of variances similar to this in the same subdivision. The discussion criteria, it's the same approval or denial criteria as I just previously read, so I won't repeat it for the record, but the applicant did provide responses to each of those. There is a diagram in your staff report that details the basic layout of the fence with a 5'9" section, a gate, and then an additional 5'9" section. And as you see, there's a picture of the fence that's already constructed. The permit was originally applied for, showing the encroachment. It was denied and then resubmitted with a 10-foot encroachment, then constructed as you see in the picture. And so it's kind of how the variance was generated. And it's in front of you tonight for a request to encroach within the allowable. So you can kick out 10 feet provided you're still 15 feet from the right of way and they've exceeded that 10 feet. Again, Mr. Harper is the applicant tonight, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any question, Mr. Kadosha? Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
How y'all doing? I'm Robert Harper, 1938 Miller's Way, Hernando, Mississippi, newer resident to the area. I did build this fence prior to this variance process. I'd like to plead ignorance. Didn't know you needed a permit to build on your land here in Hernando, new to the area. I did confer with my neighbor before I did it. Had, everything marked off from gas lines, sewer lines. Had the property line was already there from my neighbor's fence. So I conferred with my neighbor to the south of me before I built it, or to the west of me, excuse me, before I built it. We agreed upon it, went about building it, and that's kind of how we got to this juncture with the fantastic mygovernmentonline.org that I could not operate properly. So I don't know if y'all have any questions for me. Very much not easy. I do general contracting in Memphis. We do insurance repairs. So we're fixing homes with big fire and water losses. So I'm used to filing permits, but mostly in Germantown and Carville, you walk into and you speak to a person and you tell them what you're doing. Really, we're just doing re-existing what was there. We're not making any crazy changes. So, but my lot is not at an intersection. Miller's Way curves, which makes it a corner lot. But my house sits further inside the other houses when you're going out Miller's Way out to to 51. So I built the fence in conjunction with my neighbor, talking to my neighbor, in line with the brick of his house. It's actually inside of other fences on Miller's Way going out to 51. So I'm not the furthest fence out. And I believe the variance, if I read it correctly, it is, or the why it's there is so that you don't obstruct the view as you come around a corner. And it's much further off the street that if you took that right turn, you can still see the oncoming traffic coming around the bend. So that was it. I don't know if there's any other questions for me.
Just so I'm caught up, so you recently moved, you built the house, you built the fence.
I bought the house.
Bought the house, built the fence.
Yes.
And then realized your fence is sticking out too far.
No, I got a note from the city saying, hey, you need a permit to build this fence.
But you already built the fence.
Well, I had the post in the ground,
Okay.
working on putting the pickets up.
Okay.
Went to apply for the mygovernmentonline.org permit. I thought I'd done it. I got another one of these orange tickets. I do it again. I had multiple open permits for the same thing. but I didn't know how to finish the process online. I thought I had done it, and I was like, well, I got to pay for this at some point. I don't know how to pay. And then I finally got a last one, and it had a note from a Kristen, maybe, Doug, her, and she walked me through the process. I called her, and we walked through the process of clicking the buttons together, and it was much easier.
You did submit the application, it was just returned to you.
Well,
So you did get it right.
okay, well, I tried. I attempted, but yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I did drive out there and see, his concern with, it is an oddly shaped lot. It's in the middle of a curve, and there wasn't any sight line of, safety concerns that I seen. I drove it both ways.
He's got a picture of it.
I got a picture of that too, if you want to see that. There's not any,
It's the curve to the west.
there's not any obstruction.
Pretty wide curve.
Yes, sir, and my house sits further in on the curb, from where the fence is built out, because it's a side load lot.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in support or against this item?
Good evening, y'all. How y'all doing today?
All right.
All right. So if I can approach the board, I'm gonna just,
What's your name and address?
Langston Worley, 2055 Highway 51. So all those people that were here earlier is where we are now, and it's not as bad as them with the drainage and all of that, but we are now suffering the after effects of the lawyers coming up, putting plans up, making it sound all real good, we're gonna do this, and when the neighborhood's done, then, we're just left hanging. So when we come up on all the hearings for this development, we were told that there was gonna be a 25-foot variance. All these trees were gonna stay there. Well, when they were cutting this up, there's an embankment. Well, there's an embankment here coming up, because we're higher than all this right here. Well, they come all the way. So this right here is, they come all the way, so they're supposed to stop here. That was the variance. They came all the way to here. All these trees, I mean, there's still a few stragglers, but when they made that embankment right there, they took these about 50–60% of those trees out, and now we have like little thickets there where we used to have, 50, 60, 70-year-old trees. So if I understand right, he's here. His neighbor, right here, because of one of the trees that they did leave, but they cut the root system out of it, fell on this house, on this fence right here, broke it. Well, guess who got the call? My mother. Because my mother got the call to repair her fence. Your tree fell on my fence. I told the lady, I said, I said, it's an act of God. I said, the developers done that, went against what was approved, done that, now you're the owner of a new tree. My mother wouldn't let me stand by that, so she sat by there and cut the tree down. Did not repair the fence, but cut the tree, got it done. It was just really aggravating, but my mom, she didn't want to see the tree, the big, huge tree laying in the lady's yard. So we went over there and cut it down, stacked it up. We got some great firewood. If anybody needs it, it's free. But, so the same thing is, and the same thing, if he puts a fence up there, if a tree falls on it, are we gonna be getting that call? The answer is like, no, we're not, but I guarantee you.
Wait, Mr. Langston, he's on the south side of that road. He doesn't back up to your property.
Okay, if he's.
He's on the south side. He's on the inside of that
See where the
curve.
cursor is?
Right, he's right on the inside. He's right there.
Oh, if it's not on me, then
Yeah, he's not.
I just don't want anything here. We're not.
No, he doesn't.
I thought he was in the curb here.
He's on the inside of the curve. He doesn't touch your property.
Okay, because the house here was the one that had
Yeah, no, he doesn't touch it, he's on the inside of
Okay,
it.
I thought he was
Mr.
here.
Worley, if you want to look at this map, it'll show you exactly where his property is.
Well, I see it, but I thought he was, that was my bad, I thought he was here, but anyway, but that's just the aggravation of it, and so these people right here, that live right here, their fence is all the way on our line. I mean, it's on our line, there's no variance, there's nothing, and so, and his neighbor has built a fence on our line. And so it's no one, so that 25-foot variance is completely ignored now, and they're all the way up. And, you know, and they're steadily building as they're building them, like this one's built one, this one's built one, now this one's starting to build one, you know, and they're all, you know, and you get one doing it, then the rest are gonna do it as well.
Kristen needs to take a look at that next week.
So we'll take a look at it next week. I don't think that's.
I'm just familiar with it. Wow.
Yeah, about that's not relevant to the variance tonight, but we can look at that setback or that buffer that you're talking about. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we can look at it.
Yeah. Well, and I do apologize, like I said, I thought he was backing up to us, this is our barn here, and I thought he was backing up to it, because it was just a nightmare right here, the neighbor, what I thought was the neighbor. So, it's right here.
Okay. All right, no problem, appreciate it. Anyone else support against this item? Is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
I make a motion to approve the request for a fence variance to encroach 10 foot into the setback as described in the attached exhibits. The subject property is located on the south of Miller's Way, west of Ava Drive in section 25, Township 2, Range 8, more specifically 1938 Miller's Way, based upon the following findings, A through D.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Safley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mack?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye. The motion to approve this item passes. Next item is PL 1789, Principal Toyota Signs Variance. Request for a digital billboard to subject properties located on the west side of McIntyre Road, north of Holly Springs Road in Section 18, Township 3, Range 7. Denise Lowell with Principal Toyota. Mr. Kadosh present the staff plan report and comment.
All right, this is PL 1789. The request is to allow a digital billboard, and the proposal is to remove the existing 3 on-site billboards for the new one. Principal Toyota is requesting the action tonight. Denise is not in attendance, but Garrett McDonald is here to not represent the application. Gotcha, thank you. The 4 approval or denial criteria are still applicable for this, as it is a variance. Generally speaking, there's a de facto prohibition on billboards, new ones in Hernando. The allowance is on very specific circumstances in industrial zoning, spaced thousands of feet apart, where it's nearly impossible with the de facto prohibition on new ones. And so that's what's generated the request for the new construction site. There are 3 current billboards on the site, and I'm sure he'll get into it here in just a second. And the proposal is to replace the center billboard with a dual-sided digital display, and I think he can speak a little more to the advertising proposal as well. There is a proposed motion to approve and deny in your staff report, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Are there any questions, Mr. Kadosh?
I will note, on the approval or denial, if it's approved, I would recommend that we do put in the motion that all 3 are to be removed in lieu of the new construction, just to be safe.
Yeah, the only the question I had was new sign ordinance. I don't have it in front of me. Do we cover LED or digital boards in that?
It is, but not to this scale. Basically,
Just because this is a billboard, not a sign.
Right. The current regulations and the new proposed regulations have regulations of how quick they can change, how bright the lights can be, the color of the lights are limited to amber rather than multicolor, And that's generally about like churches or convenience stores that wanted to have something out by the road for a digital monument sign. This is out of the box, and that's kind of why we're here tonight for a variance of what they're proposing. There are federal highway standards of a lot of those rules about how much it can change, but the other point of the sign ordinance was that we cannot regulate content. That's something he's just gonna volunteer tonight, but whatever that sign says is not something we can really touch. It's just really the size and location. So that's what they're requesting tonight, is to remove the 3 and come back with the 1.
Okay. And I don't know if this is for you or, I couldn't. Garrett.
Do you want me to stand up there? Or?
No, I think I still need to talk to Austin. Well, I guess you can, it doesn't matter. We're all, just, it's informal.
No worries. Garrett McDonald. Do you want my work address or home address? It's up to you. Oh, 2887 Mackinvale is where I work. I'm one of the partners in the store. And Denise just left the company yesterday, so she was the one more prepared to go over this, so I apologize for any of my, but no, I did do the homework last night and caught up as best as I could.
You've got 3 billboards that you don't currently own and you don't currently control, right?
Correct, sir.
But you want to take them down and replace it with a digital billboard that you can control.
Yes, sir.
The question is, if you don't own them, how do you have authorization to take them down?
That's a great question. That was the first question I had after I did all my homework. So we own the land that they're on, but they are leased. But we have the right to terminate the lease with notice. So we'll give them 60-day notice, and we're looking about a year away to do this project. It's about $500,000 or more. So we're wanting to, accrue the money and that. This is gonna be a really, really nice sign, representative of what we think the community standards would like. If I may, I showed one picture. I happen to like Cracker Barrel, and I happen to like biscuits, so as you could probably tell. But we don't control the content, as you just said, Commissioner. And sometimes, the sign behind it, do you see the sign behind that?
Way down there? Yeah.
Yeah, so that is also on our property. And then there's one back here. I can show you if we advance. Let me see. Yeah, and then see the safari back there? So these are all on our property, but Lamar owns the sign. See Lamar?
Yep.
So Lamar owns the signs, so we're gonna have to give Lamar notice, but Lamar could put up ungodly stuff up there that wouldn't be representative and tarnish our image and tarnish our community. And so one day I was talking, there was something up on a sign that I didn't like. I'm a fairly conservative person, and I didn't think it was cool. And I was talking to my partner, Mark, and I said, Mark, people think that's us. He's like, yeah, we gotta do something about that. So we started talking. And I think our values are in line with the city values, and we thought, well, can we make a trade and maybe get a variance? We're car guys, always trading and swapping. And we thought, what if we know that, billboards aren't necessarily a big thing for the city, and that the new current regulations ban them with billboards. We said, what if we take 3 billboards out of the equation for the city and replace it with 1? You're gonna have less billboards and content that we control. And it would be professional. It would be a $500,000 sign representative of the direction that the city's going. And on that sign, we would guarantee that we wouldn't let any weird, it'd be our images, and it would just be our stuff and Hernando community stuff. So we had some ideas. We were thinking, by the way, thank you for all of your service. I learned a lot tonight watching you guys. I don't know if you do it volunteer, but this looks like this takes a lot of time out of your family's lives. And
this was a good one to come to, I think.
This is crazy. You guys, seriously, I volunteer. I ref for DeSoto County wrestling. It's a new sport that's going on here, so I try to give back as much as I can too. But I think you guys are giving back more. What was it? Okay, so that's southbound. Let me see if that's that one. Let's do the digital billboard. So we, as you know, we're the principal sponsor for the Dickens, and we also do the water tower, the 5K or 10K.
It was 10.
The 10. I wasn't gonna make 5.
You felt every day.
I could do 1K. I think I could do 1K. So, but I promoted it and paid for whatever I had to help out. And you guys came, and we also give all the the check-in process for all that, so we just love that. It's pretty fun stuff. And so I was meeting with Gia this morning, and we're gonna do even more stuff this year. So this is our home, this is our community. I'm talking to Austin Wilson. I did hear tonight about the smell that's over there, so I don't know if I want to build over there. I'm gonna have to go smell around on Jaybird, but I wanted to build over there. So this was a very, very interesting night all around. But this is what we want to do, and so I don't want bad billboards. I want a good billboard, and I want it to be nice and professional, and we're gonna spend a lot of money to do it. And we'll have something like this for the temperature, and that'll be our water tower. And this would be the Dickens Christmas. And my son's gonna end up wrestling for the Hernando Tigers. I already met with Principal Case. He already told me he's got a coach from Texas. And we're gonna get wrestling going in this town. So we're a fan of the community. We wanna represent the community in a proper fashion. And we would appreciate 2 variances. One would be for the sign itself. And if we could get around the 60-second rule of, it was in the proposal, the typical rotation on a sign would be 8 seconds on a freeway because people are going so fast. And that way they can see the community.
Slow down a minute. What, the difference between 8 and 60?
Well, there's like a 60-second rule.
I think he's talking about the rules that we have on our digital.
Gas station ones.
Right, exactly.
Which is, like you said, out of the box, so the digital monument signs is 60 seconds?
I think you're referring to like the amber lit lights, certain square footage, and it can only advance once every 60 seconds.
Correct.
Like Walgreens and the bank.
Oh, right.
With this being so out of the box, this was the only way we could treat it was through the variance
And you
process.
want to reduce it down to 8 seconds?
Yes, that's the standard on that,
Is it really?
typically. Yeah,
That
it's
seems like
because
it's
people are
quick.
driving 60, so 8 seconds, you don't even really have them the full 8. So if you go 8 seconds, you're gonna maybe get 2 messages to them. But if we get 2 messages to them, then there's a good chance, because about 25% of the messages are gonna be Hernando messages. So now I get 50% of them are getting one of the Hernando messages. See what I'm saying? If I rotate it every 8 seconds. We also put in the proposal about how we have light reduction at night. We think this is gonna be a class act deal that's representative, and it takes 3 potentially 2-sided ugly billboards off the plate for you guys.
Is this 2-sided or 1-sided?
2-sided.
It is 2-sided?
We, north and south. Same with the physical ones are also.
But also, I have a question for Austin. So the time, the rollover, and with it being on the interstate, that, a lot of that probably falls underneath the highway stuff that you were talking about before.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but as far as our regs go, the variance process would exempt it, but would not exempt any highway standards about flashing lights, cautions, all those type of things, because those are dictated by MDOT.
So the variance is to replace the signs and put this one up, but then you have to follow the MDOT highway reg to what you put on the sign and.
Oh, for sure.
All of those, right?
This is big bucks, and our CEO is an attorney herself, and this will follow all guidelines. If you've been in our building, we have nice fireplaces, and I mean, everything we do is try to be top shelf.
So this is something that you're not gonna sell advertising for to other businesses or anything?
No, we'll put that in writing, and you could put that as a stipulation. We are 100%.
I don't think we can. I think that's what you said. We can't control the content.
Correct.
You can volunteer that as
You
part
can
of your
volunteer as
application,
part of it.
which I think you have done.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's no doubt what our intent is. It is to, we would, it's for Principal Auto. That's it. Principal Auto and Hernando community. That's all we care about.
But let me ask this, my concern when I saw it, and I think it looked good, and I think it's a good looking sign, and it'll add to the community, was about it being disruptive, the lights at night, any residences, I don't think there's any residences that would be disrupted, but the Hampton Inn is right around the corner right there.
Next door, yeah.
Is that gonna be, is it gonna be visible from there? Is that gonna be an issue for them, would be my.
That's a great question. In my catching up the last 24 hours, I can't say that I considered that angle, and I'll be honest with you, I don't wanna make up an answer. I
Well, I
will
just
tell you, we're a
wondered
good neighbor, and I can talk to him and maybe get his blessing. We do a lot of business with them. All of our executives, when they come visit, they stay there, and they're really, really good to us, so I could sit and talk with them, for sure.
Probably not fair to you, because you just came on board on it, but I was just wondering if somebody talked to anybody at the Hampton Inn.
No, I
Or got an idea of how visible it would be at Hampton.
One of the things I heard tonight was how neighborly people are, and they check with their neighbor before they move a fence. Probably should have done that. Probably should have talked to them. So, shame on me.
Well, again, I think it goes back
I
to
will
the
talk to them.
MDOT, where they may have a regulation.
It may not be an issue, that was just my concern, yeah. It may not even be an issue.
Is it going in the middle of the property? It's the sign that's kind of more centered?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it get a little more exposure away from the trees. We don't want to mess with any of the trees there. And the angle from the middle of my property, Commissioner, is far enough away, I think, from Hampton, but I still think it's a valid question. So if it was the sign that's on the northernmost, then that would be right up against Hampton, but it'll be on the one middle, and it's at an angle that wouldn't be facing them either. It'll be facing the freeway more.
See, now I'm curious that MDOT might already have, because LED or digital billboards are becoming more common, and they may already have a regulation that says it has to be at a certain luminosity or lumens after a certain hour, so
Yes.
you might be regulated to turn it down.
We are.
at night Anyway.
That's why I think we mentioned it in one of the answers, I believe. Let me see if I got that. That was, samples.
Yeah, the only reason I think it's not as strict as we think is the Render Center and the Tanger outlets.
Strobe light.
It's pretty bright.
Let's see, this will allow the threshold of signage per lineal frontage. Okay, so one of the points that Jennifer made here, and Jennifer's watching, hi Jennifer.
Who's Jennifer?
She's our paralegal down there in corporate, and she prepared some stuff for me. Principal Toyota's 4 existing billboards, it's 3, but we counted, it's 3, which were part of the purchase of the property in 2016. As this property is uniquely positioned between a highway and principal arterial road, it's distinct from other properties. Approval of the variance would allow replacement of 3 existing billboards, which would cover approximately 1,200 square feet with one 360 square foot double-sided board. This would be below the threshold of signage per lineal frontage, 1,450 lineal frontage allowed, while also improving the visual aspect of the dealership more closely to align with Hernando comprehensive plan. In addition, the sign would not only promote the dealership, but allow us to stimulate interest in the community and civic events. At Principal Auto Group, we live to provide exceptional care. And she said something about the lights. The current sign are viewable by highway traffic. Electric signs are allowed with restrictions. The billboards were part of the property acquisition, would not be currently permitted. By reducing the total square footage of the signage, the aesthetic look on the edges of the property would improve. With the explosive growth of the city of Hernando and DeSoto County, according to the 2021 census, Hernando is the 4th most populous place, growing at a sustained growth rate of 18.7. Principal Auto would like to be part, that's not it. I'm so sorry. That's a ton. Great variance.
It's bottom paragraph, yeah.
The nighttime illumination of the digital board decreases to adjust with the surroundings. The new digital boards are aesthetically pleasing and much different from the first generation, which were the standard when the ordinance was originally written. The new digital sign will be a vehicle to enhance and reinforce community character while located on a high-traffic thoroughfare. Oh, man, I blew it on my homework. I could have sworn that she mentioned the lineal. She has done the research on the law, and yes, I did read in reading all the paragraphs last night that we do have to reduce it at night. We're prepared to do so.
And it just says board decreases to adjust with the surroundings, which that to me suggests any other nighttime sites, signs like Hampton Inn sign. So I'd have to adjust to those. That's the way I take that.
Yeah.
Cool idea.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Any wrestlers?
Long time ago.
I wrestled in high school.
There we go. Good man.
Calm down.
Anyone by the support or against this item? All right, is there a motion to approve, deny, table this item?
I'll make a motion to approve a request to approve the construction of the billboard as presented by the applicant at the subject property located on the west side of McInville Road, north of Holly Springs Road in Section 18, Township 3, Range 7, based upon findings A, B, C, and D, contingent upon the removal of the 3 existing billboards, with the new billboard to be placed as described by the applicant and approved with the applicant's proposed content as he's directed, as he's volunteered, I should say.
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Sackley?
Aye.
Commissioner Max?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
The motion to approve this item passes. The final item is PL 1788, Joyce Estate First Revision. Request for first revision of Joyce Estate to create 5 lots on 19.03 acres located on the north side of Green Tea Road, east of McInville Road in Section 32, Township 2, Range 7. Joyce Estate LLC, the owner. Mr. Condosa, provide staff comments and report.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1756, and the request is for final plat approval of Joyce Estates first revision. It's the property description, as you mentioned. Mr. Jordan Bledsoe's here tonight, and appreciate your patience. It's proposed to be a 5-lot subdivision on 19.84 acres. The original plat was approved in 2021 for 2 lots on the same acreage. The proposal tonight is to leave Lot 2 as remains and create lots 3, 4, and 5 behind the existing field house facility to accommodate some additional commercial growth. The 50-foot egress easement on the middle of the properties to provide access to those parcels and for any future debate on access is there. And so it is a first revision because the original plat included the 2 lots. This does include 5. And since the original plat was approved, the field house has been constructed. The standard subdivision conditions are in your staff report, and those are included based on the previous application for the field house. All the public improvements along Green Tea Road have been completed and approved. So this application does not include much on the public improvement side, but we included all those conditions just to be safe. The property zone C2 and all the lots in question are zone C2 and do have access to centralized water and sewer. And then if approved tonight, this will be heard by the Board of Aldermen on February 20th, next Tuesday. And I put a proposed motion in your staff report. So Mr. Bledsoe's here tonight representing the application, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Condosa?
Yeah, thank you. Austin, do we not have a, like the county, a maximum easement length?
We do. Let me pull it real quick.
I'm just curious, just for.
It may require a waiver. That's a good catch.
Variance.
And while I'm looking it up, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I'll cover just a second.
Jordan Bledsoe with Bledsoe Engineering and Surveying, representing Joyce Estes on this field house revision. First, I'd like to say I envy your patience. Thank y'all. It looks like I've waited out the opposition, so I appreciate y'all. Any questions? He covered it very, very well. Everything that I was going to highlight has already been highlighted.
So I have a question with the easement for the access, the ingress egress. So they basically just be using that center lane through where the parking lot is to get to those other properties?
Yes, sir.
My concern is just you know, not having like some sort of boundaries there, like, you know, kids running out with cars and stuff, and that's could potentially be, I don't know what's planned or, you know, ideas to go back there, but it's just, seemed like on the most of a, if you look at it as like a shopping center or something, there's some sort of clear-cut path, you know, it's rather, right down the middle where,
the same thing.
you know, because
Is
it's not real wide either, it's really tight, two cars in between there.
That's one of our comments in certificate. They're doing a retail center or proposing to do a retail center in the back. That's one of our comments, is how they're gonna address the pedestrian traffic coming back and forth between the new building and the field house. And then the drive aisle, striping it or doing some parking elimination or something.
That's
Well-
same concern.
That goes to my only concern with it is that field house, the parking there, I mean, when there's stuff going on, I mean, it's awful. My people park up on, Green Tea Road, it obviously shouldn't be. I'm assuming that each one of these new tracks will have their own parking designated. And that could be a relief.
So currently, Lot 3 is planned for retail. I have done the topographic survey as well as the boundary associated with this application. Once this is potentially approved, then we would move forward with the design of that retail on Lot 3, the newly created Lot 3. Lots 4 and 5 are for future use. I do know, in talking with Greg, he has expressed the same issue with parking and understands that this could be a relief to the current.
Yeah, I think if done right, it could help the situation.
Yes, sir.
Austin, can you pull up the plat?
I think there's a big elevation change between Lot 1 and Lot 5. Seems like it drops off back that way.
There is a,
And I think Austin may have mentioned this, you know, 2021 is obviously before my time on the board, but there was some sort of variance issue for number of parking spaces.
Right.
So it was reduced already.
As long as you're not coming back later and ask for fewer parking spaces.
But like I say, my biggest concern is driving through that lane there to access those.
You just like, it's a cost thing, move the road over to this lane. Because that's my concern right there, running two-way traffic to whatever ends up back there through a busy part, like Mr. Jordan said. I've been by there when that's just.
People backing out.
Thanksgiving Day, looking for a place to park.
the only thing that I would add to that is Lot 2 has been sold. So the drive that has been built off of Green Tea is somewhat monumented.
Is Lot 5 sold?
No.
Lot 5 is not, it is in the back.
Would you move part of the parking lot around the back?
I almost think the best access point would be the backside of the building, like for a shared.
The east.
The east, yeah.
Yeah.
The eastern portion.
Here?
Yeah.
And we're kind of working through a lot of that, and, you know, that drive aisle there is listed for ingress egress mainly for legal purposes. All of this will connect. Now, the path of least resistance, like you're saying, may be this way to get it, and it's all physically there. It's just that dotted line that you see is dedicated for the legal right for those folks to come to the back of the property. And in talking with the engineers preliminarily, the intended purpose of this lot is associated retail as a part of this, so like a coffee shop, juice bar type of thing. And so, you know, I know it doesn't necessarily matter, but a lot of the traffic that's there is going to be shared with the field house. I don't think there's gonna be any dedicated retail traffic. I don't think there'll be primarily dedicated retail traffic going to lot 3, 4, 5. I think it's all gonna be kind of associated. But, you know, to your point on access, if that's the path of least resistance, then that might be something to
Well, we
consider.
have to also consider what the current plan is, may not be 10 years from now. Could sell the whole thing and a whole different business and retail go in there. So what would be the most convenient, easy way to plan for the future?
Because, I mean, like I say, it's just going through that center aisle, it's hard to I mean, I guess two cars fit through there together, but it's gotta be tight. And then like, Mr. Skeen said, people backing out or kids running across, I mean,
Emergency access stuff, I mean, that's a little bit weird, scary.
I mean, there's not even any sort of crosswalk, you know, to lead from the door of the field house through the parking lot.
That's a good point. That's one of our comments on that proposed certificate of development is the pedestrian traffic coming back and forth.
Right.
And there's sidewalks prepared, like linking this site and the landscaping, and there's relatively a lot of parking on this site. But getting these folks here and back safely is something it's kind of in process, you know.
But I'm just worried about getting the people in the field house parking lot to the field house, you know, like that, if you take that back road towards lot 2, if somebody's parking on that back road trying to get to the field house, and you got cars coming down that middle aisle, I mean, there's no curb, there's no crosswalk, none of that.
Well, like you said, the other access is already there, you just make that your main access and cut the other one off. You go around the back of the building, and then you connect to your back road.
I think it's,
Did I say that right?
I think it's probably wider back there than through the middle.
From what I remember, no, this was several years ago, but I was brought in after the site plan was approved to help Greg. It really turned into a design build. I believe the center aisle is wider than the other two, and that was the fire access.
I'm talking about, it's wider than the one around the back?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Do you know how wide, you know, how many
I
feet?
can look that up, and I can send Austin, but I don't have that with me, no, sir.
What's the standard, is it 24 feet? What's the
24, I
wide?
believe it's
Drop out
26.
25.
20, is it 26 for fire lane now?
I guess
For a
26.
hydrant's 26.
And I think the back would be 24 as well, from curb to a parking stripe. The pavement width. And then the other two drive aisles would be 24 as well. So it is the widest drive currently.
I did not find the maximum length of an easement in our ordinance. Shade, answer your question.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I think we need to do something about that center lane.
Do you want to measure the widths and come back with a?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, as long as if we're talking two-way traffic from Green Tea, and potentially thinking two-way traffic going all the way through that parking lot to retail in the back. Regardless of irrelevant what goes back, there's access and traffic going back there. And then the safety concern of pedestrian crosswalks across that main, and are people gonna be parking right off of that, or are you gonna take the parking spaces away?
There will be a landscape buffer on the west side of the 50-foot easement. And you'll see that when we submit for the site plan, but
So you're saying these parking spaces on the insides will come out?
no, sir, I'm talking on lot 3.
Oh, on lot 3.
Yes, sir. I thought that was what you were asking.
So I think it'll be redesigned the way that you're talking, you know, that you and I are thinking, you know, with the landscape buffer or something, crosswalks going back, but it doesn't solve the issue of the existing parking lot.
The conceptual design that I did see on lot 3, there is provisions for pedestrian walkway. So there will be, I believe it's the 26, maybe a 30-foot drive on the west side of the 50-foot easement. And then there's 8 feet for like a bike lane that they're putting in for pedestrian way on the far east side. So there are some provisions to make lot 3 walkable. There is a sidewalk that runs pretty much the length of the building.
Right.
So making that connection walkable, there could be some improvements, a little bit of a sidewalk on lot 5 that would connect to this easement. And then your concern about lot 3 to lot 1 is just crossing the drive aisle here and crossing the drive aisle there. I would say that the retail in lots 3 is the only currently planned retail, potentially 4 as well, but I don't believe that that is going to increase traffic significantly from what already the field house has.
Because it's mostly foot traffic from the field house.
And honestly, I could see people parking here rather than on Green Tea and then walking to the field house.
But we don't know what's going in the back yet in lot
4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Potentially.
4 and 5 are not currently planned.
That could be a McDonald's for all we know, right? C2.
Theoretically.
Chick-fil-A?
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Don't say the C word.
Somebody had to. Chick-fil-A behind that.
I don't think I'm ready to approve this plat. But could we, I don't know what everybody else thinks, is we could table it and come back. I'd like to see that lot
Like you say,
3, what you're planning with the sidewalks and stuff, so we can see everything, how it's all connected. I know that lot 3 is not part of the plat, but at least,
Well, he didn't want to go forward too far
Yeah.
with the design without an approved plot, so.
That is kind of the flux, because they've started certificate of development, and we pass a lot of that on as pedestrian traffic back and forth. And I haven't seen the finished product yet, but with it not being a public road and it all being private, there's certain rules about drive aisle widths and pedestrian ways around the building. Every 10 spaces has a landscape island to be a break for people to cross and things like that. So there's lots of rules and mechanisms built in. And so, like with the subdivision plat stage, the building I appreciate you putting it on there because it generated a lot of good questions, but it's not required for the parking in the building of what it all is, because there's lots of rules in our design regs that address, I think, everything we're talking about. About, the easement length, to Shay's point, in the county, it's 600 feet. I didn't see anything in our ordinance, but with this being a commercial development, it's pretty common, like Walmart and the cross traffic back and forth, all those drive aisles, all the connections, all the parking, all that's dictated in our design regs. So there's rules, I just know that's not a lot of times the right time to catch it.
yeah. Well, this was originally designed,
It was just 2 lots.
yeah, it's 2 lots, right? So that parking lot, it wasn't designed to be a through fare in that current parking lot. So that's the concern that's on the table right now.
Yeah, that's the only thing that, it seems like fire marshal might have an issue with that.
I don't know the drive aisle width, that's what I wish I knew right now in that middle lane.
I do remember getting a comment from the fire marshal originally, and we increased. I don't remember if it was, we were 24 and we went to 26, or what that number was, but it is a wider drive aisle.
And some kind of, typically an emergency turnaround at the end is, in the county.
I think
for
that's why
instance.
the actual access on the back, it all links for that second egress point onto Green Tea. I think that was the purpose of it. It's because the length of the building and the hose length was required that second way in and out.
And the retail planned on lot 3 that you will see a site plan eventually also has a loop completely around the building, so that eliminates the cul-de-sac requirement.
Yeah, like I say, it wasn't originally planted for, the access to whatever potentially builds back there. I know lot 3 may not potentially drive a lot of traffic, but who knows what the other 2 lots turn into 10 years from now. And
We know what you want back
no, that's not who cares. My pocketbook would be lighter if it's not there, because my daughter, if it is there, but, I just worry about the traffic hazards of the existing parking lot, people crossing that thoroughway for potentially whatever comes in years to come. And then there's no crosswalks. Yeah, there's the landscape buffers however many spots it is, but it's just a curb and some mulch. It's not across, like a walking path. There is the walking path around the building that touches the building, but it doesn't help the parking lot any. And it's just a ton of kids on any event that they have, and even throughout the week too, you know, because they have the volleyball. It's not just during basketball, so they have kids baseball and they have training and stuff, all kind of stuff in there. I mean, I think everybody loves the field house for Hernando.
It's almost like it, to me, I'm with you on the drive on the east side to be widened or something. At least it's single loaded.
Right.
You
And
know.
it's single loaded with a front sidewalk,
Mm-hmm.
so.
There's a pretty steep bank to the east.
I mean, I'm good with tabling it till some of this is thought through a little bit, at least bounced around.
You said lot two's already sold.
Yeah, and like, Thorne, is there a way to ask the fire marshal to look at this to see?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, table and then come back with, and again, I know it's not part of this, but just having a comparison or kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, have a lens into what lot three is gonna be like, so we can
And do
get.
that. Is
foot
that a,
traffic
for my client's purposes, is that a 1 month?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for
Right,
sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? May we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table until the next meeting, whatever date that is.
Next month. I think it's during spring break, I think it's the 12th.
Gonna be a tough meeting.
Quorum-wise, you mean?
Spring break.
Still winter.
March 12th.
Me neither.
And if we have a problem, I don't have much working, I don't think, yet. And so if anybody can jump on a phone call to get a quorum together or a Zoom call, I can try to make that all happen too.
Okay.
In fact, this and a variance, I think is all we have.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan? Commissioner Sackley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mack?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to table this item passes. All right, Austin, we got someone here about sign.
Yes, sir. We had a nice short meeting, so I thought it would be a good time, but, it's the same, I researched your question about the misdemeanor charge, and that penalty that you saw in the previous ordinance, that's what that is. It's a misdemeanor charge, and that's the discretion of the court can go up to. And so we reached out to Stephen, and he said something that we've done in alternate text was put the requirement for a written warning and a 15 or 30-day notice. That way, even if it's somebody's crazy, there's something in the ordinance that says you have to have a warning before you get a ticket.
Gotcha.
So that, we looked into that. And so I don't expect a decision tonight, but I've repassed it out. We've cleaned up typos. We've gone through attorney's reviews on it. And so this is very close to being our ending document. As I mentioned in the past, it's a pretty boring read, but it's all based on us not being able to regulate signs on content. And to be clear, it is pretty restrictive on commercial zoning political signs, or what used to be called a political sign. So, you know, right now it's a bit of a free-for-all. What this is proposing is that each commercial parcel could have 2 signs, and each of those signs is limited to 8 square feet. So I do kind of expect that to change, but the first draft is very restrictive in that regard. Everything else, we structured around the commercial districts to be relatively the same on sizes, illumination, everything like that. The names have changed just to basically not regulate our ordinance on content, so Russell and, or Commissioner Jordan and I have been talking for a couple months about getting together on it. We haven't had a chance to, so if you see anything in here, good, bad, that you want to change or discuss, we haven't had a chance to really get into it, because the last couple of meetings are like this. So I do plan on bringing it back next month again for adoption to the board. So I want to have this adopted hopefully in March by the Board of Aldermen. So, anything you see, questions, right, suggestions, anything, please let me know, and draft for hopefully in March adoption.
I did talk to Stephen about it. I think he did some stuff. We were working on some stuff. So But I did, on the event long-term signs, there is, and I think it's just a typo. The number of signs on long-term signs, it says an additional 4 prior to an election, and the numerals 2.
Yeah, it's typo.
6 and then 4 on residential.
What page is that on?
Page 12.
Honestly, I think Chris and I have gone through this thing 10 times, and so we need all the sets of eyes on what we can get. So
No, I get it.
anything you see, please let us know.
And every time we look through it, we find about 10 things that we didn't see last time.
I guess Mike and Steve and I, we can talk about the content issues more than anything. But Josie, you may be able to answer this. That's put you on the spot or anything. You probably did all the research on this. But, the number of signs isn't an issue as well, constitutionally, free speech.
I have to talk to.
The number is, for political signs, that would be my concern, that you can even put a number.
Well, the fact, so we don't call them political signs, of course, because that would be regulating it based on the.
Well, yeah, I agree, but it's the signage ups 60 days prior to an election.
Yeah, that's to get around, to be
I know,
honest.
yeah, no,
And so theoretically, like if you're a business or a resident, and you wanted to have additional 4 signs, you could have 4 yard sale signs or 4 additional Hernando High School band signs during that time period.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be regulated on that content, but to your point, that's.
I mean, the concern is that, you know, honestly, somebody could make the argument that, you know, if there's 6 elections going on, I want to put 6 signs out, but I'm limited to 4 under this City of Hernando ordinance, and therefore my free speech is being infringed.
Sure.
That's the big issue you have with this.
Yeah, I mean, the line has to be somewhere.
I
It just where
agree.
that is, I don't know. That's what I need y'all's help
I
on.
get what you're saying, but that's good, that'd be weak to argue free speech.
That's the whole issue.
Yes.
I mean, that's the
Because I
entire
could
issue.
I could wear a T-shirt
That's,
to make up a difference for one sign.
That's a difference for case.
yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
There
it
is
is.
one about
It's
the
a-
number, but I can't remember exactly, and I'll have to talk to him again.
Oh, it's a Supreme Court case?
Yes, that's why we're changing
It's
it.
constitutional law.
Didn't know that.
It was a jacket.
But I really do appreciate y'all
Constitution.
spending
Gets in the way.
a lot of crazy and good discussion, I think, on everything, but we do appreciate everything y'all do.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.